coffee on his lap, cigarettes curling, smoking his political trap. Michael Vast roars through the screen, he flies, painting red and blue skies with his fiery cry. He's the world's watchdog, calling out the bluff. Right-wing swagger, but his heart's pretty tough. He's a Republican dragon with his truthful slight, fights the battles unseen in the shadows of the night. From policy to passion, he breaks it all down, giving a voice to the voiceless, wearing his crown. Caffeine-fueled mornings, the smoke curls dance, Puppy at his feet, giving life one more chance. Through algorithms and bias, he cuts straight and clear. Michael's roar echoes in the hemisphere. Michael Vast roars through the screen, he flies, painting red and blue skies with his fiery cry. He's the world's watchdog, calling out the bluff. Right-wing swagger, but his heart's pretty tough. No sound bites allowed is his ultimate creed. A dragon's perspective where facts are the seed. Standing tall on his battlefield of thoughts, guarding the truth that others forgot. Michael Vast roars through the screen, he flies, painting red and blue skies with his fiery cry. He's the world's watchdog, calling out the bluff. Right-wing swagger, but his heart's pretty tough.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us. This is No Sound Bites Allowed. I am your host, Michael Voss, the political dragon here in our offices in the Bronx, New York. Today is February 28th. It is currently 12:09 in the afternoon. It is a very difficult day today, and I think everybody is aware that things are going crazy right now. What's happening in the world? Many people woke up this morning. Like myself, I slept in a little bit, woke up about 8:30 in the morning and found out the United States at war. We are directly fighting Iran at this moment. That Donald Trump made an announcement, an 8-minute speech talking to the world and in particular to Iran and the American people, stating that the talks to end the nuclear ambitions of Iran, the talks to curtail the long-range missiles, the hope, the intent is the research to build ICBMs and long-range missiles in Iran, trying to stop that had failed, that the Iranian people continue to arrest and potentially kill their own people because of the poor economics of Iran. Because of all of these factors and the long history going back to 1980 with Iran and the United States, the embassy, all of our embassy personnel being held for over a year, the strikes against the Marines in Lebanon, the support of international terrorism that has targeted Americans predominantly around the world, all of the actions of Iran and their consistent intent and promise to destroy America. For all of those reasons, Donald Trump has taken action, and he has struck with bombs, air support, drones, and aerial bombardment. We have struck Iran with the intent of regime change. At the end of the day, the ultimate goal appears to be to change the regime, to depose the Ayatollah, the mullahs, the fanatical, hyper-religious leadership, theocracy of Iran. That's what we woke up to. That's the first thing many people heard this morning. And we have seen since that time Other nations are starting to react. Other nations have been told. Iran, for its part, has retaliated in part against multiple nations throughout the Middle East, not just Israel, not just American military bases, but to attack civilians. And that's kind of scary because the U.S. and apparently and Israel are targeting military targets, and Iran is attacking anyone and everything. They're just reaching out to terrorize and attack civilians. That is a big difference. But the world is starting to find out about this, and they're starting to try and absorb this news and then react to it because we have seen a dramatic change in the world. I've talked about this before. Under President Donald Trump as the 45th president in 2025, he made a point to identify to the world the United States is a superpower. Whether you like it or not is immaterial. The United States is the only superpower in the world at this time, with China being a very close second and Russia not really a factor. A big country, a strong country, not a superpower. And Europe had been, in 2025, it had become very clear that the European idea that they have massive influence on international actions is gone. It has been evaporated. Europe had been operating for a long time under the thought that they still had the same kind of power, the same kind of influence as they did back in the 1800s, when they were a factor in most global events. But since World War II, that had been diminishing, and realistically, in the latter half of the 20th century, they became irrelevant. They became vassals of the United States. They are dependent on the United States for both economy and defense, and therefore their voice is meaningless. In fact, as we are learning at this moment, it appears that most of Europe and the United Kingdom, our closest ally, were not notified. They were not told ahead of time. They were not asked to be involved because it was unnecessary. Their involvement is meaningless. It's the same thing as when Europe and England and many countries decided to make a stand and to put their troops in Greenland to try and defuse or defeat the attempt by Donald Trump to make a deal in Greenland for the rare earth metals that are absolutely necessary for the quality of life of the United States going into the future. And that amounted to 30 troops. We're talking about believe it was 7 or 8 major first world nations. Most of Europe, we had Germany, we had France, we had the United Kingdom sending in troops, and it amounted to 30 troops. It was meaningless. It was meant to be symbolic, and the symbol that they showed was weakness and failure. And so they're not involved in what's happening in the Middle East right now. They were not notified ahead of time, nor were they asked to participate. The United States unilaterally took this action, it appears at this time, to the best of the information that is available to the world in open public communications. And the United States, under Donald Trump, said, nope, we're going to do this. This is the thing to do. Iran was not serious about its negotiations. They had strung along the Biden-Harris administration for 4 years, removing many of the sanctions that not just President Trump as the 45th president, but also Obama and Bush and Clinton. Many sanctions have been put on Iran, and the Biden administration were removing dozens of those sanctions just in the hope to try to talk to Iran about the potential to create a nuclear weapons deal, and that failed. So Trump decided, okay, we're putting back the sanctions. We struck and removed much of the nuclear capabilities of Iran in a single devastating strike. Basically, I call that the 1 hour war, because by the time the world became aware that the United States was going to take action, we had already taken action and it was already over. We flew our bombers overnight, ran, flew them right over Iranian airspace, dropped our mega bunker buster bombs, and destroyed the much of the nuclear capabilities of Iran, and then left. The war was over. It was a 12-day war for Israel and Iran. It was a 1 hour war for the United States. But that was not enough. But it did establish that the United States unilaterally could and would take action against persistent enemies of the United States. And that's what we got to see because of that. And then we saw, as a follow-up this year, we saw Venezuela. Again, a persistent danger to the American people, both in terms of drugs, in terms of a hostile government that had taken U.S. property, private businesses that had invested in Venezuela prior to Hugo Chavez, their property taken, privatized by the socialist government that took over with Hugo Chavez and was continued by Nicolas Maduro. We saw that their people, the people of Venezuela, were absolutely tortured, destroyed. They were starved to the point that they were eating garbage. They were eating zoo animals. They escaped. They fled. Over 8 million, perhaps 9 million Venezuelans fled to other nations all across the globe. And many of them, a great deal of them, came to the United States through the open border policies of the Biden administration, caravans, and just crossing our borders illegally. Many of them unvaccinated, poor medical conditions. In part, I can't blame them for that because their government had collapsed. So the basic universal medications that the rest of the world had, like for measles and mumps, vaccinations for that, were not available to the people of Venezuela for many years. And thus, we saw a spike throughout all of South America, through Central America, and now in the United States, from those Venezuelans running away and trying to find a way to survive because they could not survive in Venezuela. And because of all of that, the United States went into Venezuela to end the human trafficking, slavery coming out of Venezuela through its cartels, through the approval of that dictator, that communist dictatorship, to regain our private businesses, private property of businesses of the United States, most of those being oil companies, yes, but private property of the citizens and businesses of the United States, to reclaim our property, to bring stability into South America, which therefore means more stability for the entire Western Hemisphere. And many people thought the United States would not do that. And if we would ever even try, that would have to be something that would be done as a coalition. President Trump said, no, we're the United States. We did that unilaterally. We saw immediately after that Mexico decided to redefine its relationship with the United States. And after decades of cartels controlling the Mexican government and having the ability to invade the United States for drug trafficking, for human trafficking, otherwise known as slavery, for weapons trafficking, we saw that one of the largest, actually the largest cartel in Mexico, their leader was killed, thus throwing the entire cartel into chaos, which continues at this moment and will likely continue for several years, reducing the threat to the United States and also, to an extent, reducing the threat in Mexico, although we are seeing increased violence throughout Mexico and in the United States as various gangs and mid-tier leaders are trying to jockey for more power, more ability of their own. But yet, a significant change by the Mexican government. They actually asserted themselves because they had the fear that, just like with Venezuela, if they did not take action, that President Trump would unilaterally take some form of action, and he wouldn't have struck at just one cartel or just the leadership of that cartel, but the entire cartel, if not several of them, all at once with U.S. forces. That was the rumor. That was the fear. Then we see what's happening in Iran. Now, I'm mentioning all of these things because there's a lot involved here. Many of the news organizations, many political organizations right now are trying to reach out to you, and they're telling you that this is simply a one-sentence situation. Either Trump is bad because Orange Man bad, he's a dictator, or he's an authoritarian, he's a warmonger. That is far too simplistic to explain what's going on right now. And that is not evident by what we are seeing in the news around the world. Many people are saying, well, Trump is doing the best thing possible for America, negating the fact that some of these actions are, in particular, looking at what's happening today with Iran, if we have declared war, as President Trump himself did say in his speech this morning, well, the president can't declare war. That is not a unilateral action of the executive branch of the United States government. That is a problem. And yes, he did, an hour before any actions were taken, he did notify Congress, but he wasn't very clear on what exactly he was planning to do or how it would be enacted. That's a problem. While the president and the United States are massively powerful, there are checks and balances that should happen, even in taking actions that are to the benefit of the United States. Now, there is, of course, the authorization of unified authorization of military force. There is the War Powers Act. There are actions that the president can initiate and then allow the rest of the world, the rest of our country, to react to that and to further authorize it. But maybe we've gone too far. That's a question that a lot of people should be asking, even if you support Donald Trump. And I do largely, overwhelmingly, I have supported Donald Trump in every of his elections and most of his policies as a Republican, as a conservative, as a Black American. I have supported Donald Trump because he has been the best choice for long-term positive change for America for many, many years, for more than a decade now. But that doesn't mean that support is universal, nor does it mean that that support goes without any questions or trying to understand the long-term net benefit. I think that's very important. I don't think most in the mainstream news media are even trying to do that, nor have they understood this. But there's a lot of information happening right now. There are many countries all around the world are reacting to this. One of the things that we are seeing overall is the great support for Donald Trump. Yes, there's the America went out and they're being cowboys. There's that statement. But underneath that, looking at the international diplomacy of it, no one's upset. The world is not upset that Donald Trump has done this. The world is not upset that Donald Trump is saying, has taken the action that most of the world wanted to happen, including in the Middle East, including with Arab nations and Muslim nations. No one wanted Iran to continue on the path that it was on. But that doesn't mean that Donald Trump is universally perfectly fine, that he did everything absolutely right. There's questions here. So given all of that, given my own confusion and questions, and I've been spending the entire morning, I've spent hours now just looking over international news media reports as they are happening, the responses from leaders from Europe, from England, in the United States. I want to have a conversation with you guys on how you feel about this. I tend to feel mostly, excuse me, I tend to feel mostly good about this. I tend to think that Donald Trump has made the right decision but I'm not sure if he did it in the right way. I don't know if we have a clear enough plan to benefit the United States and the world in the long term. And I don't look at these things as what's going to happen next week. I'm not looking at this as, is this going to be good for the 2026 midterm elections? I'm not thinking of that. I'm thinking about the next 5 years, the next 10 years, the next 20 years. That's the true determining factor of whether or not this is a good idea, if this was the right time, if this was the right way. Is what will happen next 20 years. I don't care what happens at the end of 2026. I care what happens in 2036, 2046. Okay. Let me come back. Let me step back because I know I have a lot of comments coming in. I want to take a moment. So I'm trying to give initially what's going on. And we're going to go into some more details. There's some news reports. I will go over that. But I'm trying to sum up the initial space of what's going on here and what people are talking about. And do we think, where do we all think? Where are we at? We have to evaluate this before we can figure out where we're going to go next. So let me take some time to actually go over some of the comments here. I see a comment from Keep It Real. Hello, Keep It Real. I haven't seen you before. Thank you for joining us. Keep It Real says, the Arab nations may actually step up to the plate now. They are not happy that Iran bombed U.S. bases on their land. Well, that's true. And Keep It Real, just to let you know, we saw that 2-3 weeks ago. Saudi Arabia had made the announcement. My channel covered this during the Sunday live stream about 3 weeks ago. Saudi Arabia was telling the United States, they were having direct conversations with the president and in general to the world, that building up our aircraft carriers just off the coast of Iran, that was a signal that had to have action. The Middle East is more confrontational as a culture. The culture of the Middle East is more confrontational, much more aggressive than, say, Europe or the United States in their diplomacy. That's not a negative or a positive. It's just what they tend to do. And to build up so much forces in that region and to take such a threatening posture required that we would have to do something. This is coming from Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia made it clear, we have to do something. We have to take an actual action, the United States, because we had postured so much. We saber rattled a little too much. And therefore, according to Saudi Arabia, action would have to be taken. We're now seeing that action being taken. And Saudi Arabia, at this moment, today, at this time, they are largely supporting the United States against Iran. So it's been effective in that respect. And now we're seeing the UAE, we're seeing Jordan, we're seeing many other nations, as you mentioned, that are upset that Iran took actions against U.S. bases and U.S. resources in other Middle Eastern countries that have endangered civilians in these other Middle Eastern nations. So they're pissed off. As well as previous to this, we had places like Saudi Arabia, the United Arab Emirates, and others that were supporting the increased buildup of military forces against Iran by the United States. They weren't willing to take action themselves, but they were at least willing to allow the U.S. to posture, saber rattle, and potentially take action. Now comes the time where we put up, now they have to pay up. Are they going to support us all the way? We'll find out. So thank you for that comment. Let me see. We have a comment from Matthew. Oh, Matthew J. For those who don't know, I often appear on the Matthew J. Show. And Matthew, I don't remember if we were talking about this, but that's important. Matthew brings up that as of recent, and this is one of the fears we've had for a long time, the Strait of Hormuz is now closed. Matthew is also he very much does what I do here with political commentators. I know Matthew is connected to some individuals at least in the orbit of Washington, D.C. I had not seen the news about the Strait of Hormuz. That may be brand new news. That is very impactful to U.S. and international trade. This is a big deal. This is a fear that has been existing since the Obama administration with his interactions with Iran. The Strait of Hormuz must remain open. Must. It is a global imperative. And all of the major powers of the world rely on goods going through the Strait of Hormuz. That includes oil, but also food. And if the Strait of Hormuz remains closed, then you will see global starvation, not hunger, starvation. There is a difference. We're not talking about people not being hungry because they don't get enough food. I'm talking about people dying because food is incapable of reaching them. That is going to increase. The Strait of Hormuz is very narrow. It is possible for Iran to try and blockade that because it is so narrow. But if they do for an extended period of time, not only will oil go up, but we will see hunger. And that's one of the reasons why we have aircraft carriers in the region. I do not believe that Iran will be able to continue to keep the Strait of Hormuz closed. Mind you, we do know that all of the terrorist organizations attached to Iran, that's Hezbollah, Hamas, and the Houthis, and in this case, the Houthis most specifically, are looking to continue to fight. The Houthis, who previously had come to an agreement with the Trump administration in 2025, they had stopped attacking trading vessels in the Red Sea, which is part of the path of getting food and oil and goods to Africa, to Southeast Asia. They were bombing that under the Biden-Harris administration for the last 2 years. They stopped. Now they are saying they will restart their terrorist activities to attack shipping, private commercial shipping, food and clothing and oil that is needed by third world nations to feed their people. And they're going to blow it up now. That is a reaction to what's happening with Iran, because Iran is the true leader of the Houthi terrorist organization. That's going to be a problem. I'm more concerned about the Red Sea than I am the Strait of Hormuz. We have the aircraft carriers, we have the air power to reduce the threat of shipping going through the Strait of Hormuz. If anyone's going to attack any of the international ships, there's not many places they can hide or go that we cannot immediately go and attack. We can have sorties of planes flying through that area to make sure that that narrow water passage is clear, or at least mostly clear, of most ordnance, so that they'll be able to get through. The Red Sea is a much bigger, it's an ocean, it's a sea, and therefore a lot more area to try and cover, and the Houthis have the equipment to be able to attack shipping. That's where I'm more concerned. They're harder to hit. The Houthis are harder to hit, easier to hide. They have more angles of opportunity to target various vessels. That's where I think is the bigger question. You have a great question there, Matt. There's more to it than just what I've summed up, but I thank you for asking the question. And by the way, the answer to your question, Matt, is, was this a proven move to attack? Again, are we looking short-term or long-term? Could this, yes, oil may go up by 12%. This is instability in the Middle East in oil. Does that short-term, there will be price volatility. Long-term, if we no longer have the Ayatollah, if we no longer have the greatest sponsor of terror in the world existing, therefore less terrorism in the world, less organized terrorism in the world, less weaponized terrorism in the world, isn't that better for the world? Does that not only decrease the terrorist attacks, but doesn't it increase the global stability much more than letting Iran and letting these terrorist organizations exist? It's a question of short term versus long term. Let me go on. So, Grismatically Clever. Okay, that's an interesting name. Hello, thank you for joining our channel. Seems to have a emoji of being a little upset, I think. I'm not sure what that emoji represents. Hey, I'm old. I don't know what emojis mean sometimes. Keep It Real has some other comments. And Keep It Real says, the Arab nations may actually step up to the plate now. Okay, you already said that. You reposted it. Yes. Yes, Keep It Real. Your comments are coming up. You should be able to see them on the screen here, as well as I am seeing them. Thank you for your comments. Let's see. There we are. Keep It Real says, the world is tired of Iran. They're offering nothing good. Yes, that's true. And we are seeing that internationally. While, yes, many countries are saying, well, Donald Trump is such a cowboy. He's a wild, crazy man. He shouldn't have done that. He should have included the NATO, the European Union. He should have gotten an approval from the UN. They're posturing because they must posture, because that makes them seem like they're relevant and they have some importance, like they had some impact on what's happening here. They don't want to see the reality that Europe is meaningless, that the United Nations is meaningless and has always been meaningless in regard to at least the United States. The United States is not bound or controlled or ruled over by the UN, the EU, NATO, none of that. We are independent and can be independent of all of them. The fact that people say, well, we have to have a coalition. This came up a lot under the Obama administration. We need coalitions to do things. No, we do not. We have never needed a coalition to do many of the things that we've wanted to do. That almost everything after World War II, America has never needed a coalition for pretty much anything other than appearances, other than to make other nations feel good, to make them feel included, to make them feel like they're not, in terms of, say, the European Union, to make them feel like they're not vassals and that they have voices that actually have impact and carry weight. We acted with them more often than not, but it's not necessary. We don't need, in fact, they don't have the capability. If we're being absolutely honest, Europe does not have the capability to do anything of any significant importance. Yes, they can put in a couple hundred troops into a war where the United States puts in tens of thousands. They'll have 200 troops in, we'll have 20,000 troops in. They'll bring in 5 tanks, we'll have 5,000 tanks on the same battlefield. Are they helping? Absolutely. Is it important? No. Is it changing the game? No. So there is a very big difference in the world and our worldview. And honestly, every nation we're seeing over and over around the world, almost every nation except places like China and Russia, North Korea, who rely on illegal Iranian oil shipments. Other than that, the rest of the world is thanking the United States very quietly. And they're not really picking at Donald Trump at this moment. Donald Trump was the bad guy. He was the guy doing it. He's taking all the grief for what everyone else in the world wanted to see happen. And they didn't have the capability or the will to get it done. It's not there's no nation, none of the major nations in the world that are upset that this is happening to Iran, but they have to placate their people and they have to look like they matter and say, oh, well, Donald Trump, you're such a bad guy. You really shouldn't do that. We're going to talk to you on Monday in the UN, and we're going to complain very harshly about what you just did. Thank you. And then they'll go away. That's what we're seeing right now. Let me see. Keep It Real says Trump's long term plan is for the U.S. and the Western Hemisphere to no longer be reliant on OPEC oil imports. Short term prices will be affected. That's true, but I don't think that's exactly the long term goal of the Trump administration. And when I say the Trump administration, I actually think older generations of America. Trump represents some of the older generations. I'd say people who are about 50 and above. And I'm older than 50 myself, but I think most people 50 and above have generally a very different mindset than the 20-year-olds of today. The 20-year-olds of today are basking in the benefits of people who are older, of the 50s and older. My generation, those generations, those who are 50 and older, have fought the wars. We fought the Vietnam, the Korea. We fought in World War II. We've fought in all the conflicts that these younger ones don't have to worry about. We've made the innovations. We created the technology. We made the advancements that allow them to have the comfort that they enjoy right now. That's why when we see protesters today, like over at Columbia University, Harvard University, they're protesting with iPads, wearing $1,000, $2,000, $3,000 outfits with their lattes from their $12, $20 coffees, luxury coffees that they're getting from Starbucks. It's ridiculous. That's not protesting. That's really luxury. That you want to talk about privilege. That's the example of privilege that was only earned because of those of us who are 50 and older, and what the bleeding and sweating and work that was put in beforehand. And I think the view of Donald Trump and many of the allies around the world who are in that same age range, they're looking at very long term. I think they're looking at 10, 20 years. Is this effective and good 10, 20 years from now, not what's going to happen in the next 5 years? I don't think they care. I don't think that Trump, as the 47th president, I do not believe he cares what things look like or feel like in the next 5 years. That doesn't seem to be his goal. He's looking at 10, 20 years. Will America continue to exist? Will America continue to be a superpower? Will America have the same quality of life? Will America be able to defend itself? Will we be self-sufficient? And since the answer, at least on self-sufficiency, is no, then he's taking the actions to change that. That's energy, that's manufacturing, that's economic growth, that's technological growth. He's looking at a 10, 20 year, almost every one of his policies have an impact on a 10 and 20 year cycle that is far more impactful than what we see in a 1 year or 5 year cycle. No one cares. He doesn't care about what happens in the next election. He's looking at what's going to happen next decade. Okay, so let me go on. I think I may have answered that for you. Please let me know if I haven't. Kaiwan is with us, and Kaiwan says, what would this hurt the midterms, or would it make the midterms better or worse for Republicans? Like, is this like ICE? Is it going to make things worse or not? I think this, again, I do not believe Trump cares about the midterm elections. I mean, if Republicans can win, great. But I don't think he cares. He's already term limited out. He knows that he's not going to get a third term. So he has a limited amount of time to do what he can with the power that he has. Every day that passes, the president, Donald Trump, loses some of his power since he is a lame duck president. He cannot run for re-election. So regardless of whether Republicans win the midterms or not, he knows he's losing power. In addition, most people, the media doesn't really portray this properly, but it is absolutely historically normal that after an election, the opposite party tends to win the midterm election. Now, that doesn't mean they win in a landslide. It means they win by 2 or 3 seats in one or both of the houses. So we're talking about the Senate and the House of Representatives. And usually you will see that after a president is elected, the next midterm, You see the opposite party win by 2 or 3 seats the House of Representatives. In more extreme cases, when the public is rejecting that president, then you'll see that the opposite party will win the House and the Senate at the same time, or they'll win by an extremely large margin in the House of Representatives. We're not looking at that at this moment. Prior to the State of the Union, it was expected, at least by myself, various reports had different numbers, but I saw that the Senate would remain essentially the same in terms of balance of Republicans to Democrats. Republicans would maintain control by about 1 seat. In the House of Representatives, we're looking at, prior to the State of the Union, that was probably about +3. That Democrats would win the House in 2026 the House of Representatives by 3 seats, a very narrow margin. That doesn't mean that the country has gone completely against Donald Trump, that they reject MAGA and America First and we're going to change everything. No, it just means that we're following the normal historical change. Not everyone got everything they wanted. Some people don't show up. The other party finds some issue to argue and complain about, and so therefore they get a little bit more momentum, and they see that change. After the State of the Union, when Democrats refused to stand up, when they refused to acknowledge that their obligation, their oath of office, their purpose in government is to protect American citizens first and foremost, that changed the math. At that moment, if you ask me throughout this week up until this morning, what changed? Well, I believe that the American people, in seeing that, and they are going to see it over and over up until November 3rd, Democrats lost. There was no way to win that. Whether they like Donald Trump or not is immaterial. And many people are saying, well, it was a trap by Donald Trump. He took an opportunity. He knew that they would, no matter what he said. It's like when they say, well, if Donald Trump says that sky is blue, Democrats will tell you it's green. It doesn't matter what it is. They will take the opposite position, and they have. They have supported drug dealers and international cartels and human smuggling rather than support trying to close our borders. We've seen them actively, massively supporting that rather than the American people. And we're seeing that at this moment. So after seeing them sit in the State of the Union, motionless, without any concern or care, and now trying to say, well, that was racist. No, it isn't. Everyone who's been involved, you go to any of the historians, you go to any of the political thinkers, the purpose of government is, and it doesn't matter which government, every government, the first thing that their job is to do is to protect the people. First and foremost, that's their primary, absolute job. Protect the people. And they didn't do that. They did not agree with that. I would have said that, okay, then the Republicans win in the House and they win in the Senate. Probably, again, not by a major amount, but Republicans retain their margin, 2-3 seats in both the Senate and the House. They maintain the majority. This morning, that number is up for grabs. I'm not sure. I don't think this is about ICE anymore. This has always been about Donald Trump. It's about his personality and his will, and whether or not people, and sadly, it's about whether or not people like Donald Trump, which I tell you, and I've said many times, is absolutely immaterial. I don't care if you like Donald Trump. Liking Donald Trump is not a factor in any of this, including this war. Whether you like Donald Trump or not does not matter. Whether you like the president or you don't like him as a human being has nothing to do with what he does as the president of the superpower of the world. That's a very big thing. But we will see. So that's my thought there, Kawan. I hope I answered your question. I will go on. Let me see what others have said. I have Grizzly-matic. I really kind of like that name. It grows on me, Grizzly-matic. Grismatically clever. Again, it kind of that name, it kind of catches you, grows on you. Says, what are your thoughts on terrorist sleeper cells in America, and how can our government ensure our safety? Thank you for the question, and it's a very good question. And I think it's something that mainstream media, as far as I've been seeing, haven't been addressing. So let me address that. Are there sleeper cells of various organizations, including various terrorist groups like Hezbollah, Hamas, the Houthis, the Iranian Revolutionary Guard, Islamic Revolutionary Guard? Are they in America? Yes. We know this for a fact. We know that there was an increase, and I covered this under the Biden administration, by about 300%. We know there's over a 300% increase in terrorist groups and activities suspected in America, known and or suspected terrorists that came into America under the Biden open border, that Democratic progressive policy. We know that for a fact. So we know there are terrorist cells in America of these various organizations. That being a known, absolute, guaranteed, verifiable fact, the next question is, how do we protect ourselves? Government does not protect you in America. That's not the government is there to protect Americans from things they cannot protect themselves, to protect America from outside threats primarily and internal threats secondarily. Okay? So no nation should be able to, if a nation wants, if any country, Russia, Iran, anyone, Mexico, Canada, they want to invade America, that's what government is for, to prevent them from being able to do that. They can't invade, they can't take over any part of America. Secondarily, they are there so that you don't see an uprising of, say, the Indivisible movement or Antifa cannot take over a city. And I know they kind of effectively do in Portland or Seattle, but they really can't take over, just do an autonomous zone like we see. There's been 22 of them throughout the country. Some of them exist even at this moment, like the Defenders of the Atlanta Forest. There are these groups of far leftists that exist in America that are trying to say they are autonomous of local, state, and federal laws. They are insurrectionists. They are a danger to America. But none of them have been able to take over a city like Chicago or New York or LA, San Francisco, even in Portland and Seattle, where they have great amount of strength. They can take over several blocks for a time period, for a year or so, but they can't take over the entire city nor the entire state. Minneapolis is another great example of that. In Minnesota, yes, there was a autonomous zone that was existing for a year after George Floyd. For over a year, they existed, but they couldn't grow. They had about 10 city blocks in total that they had control over for a year, but they couldn't grow further. They didn't get to take over the entire city or even a large segment of the city. They had about 10 to 12 city blocks, and they were limited to that. And then eventually, that autonomous zone was shut down. So I say all of that to say, who's going to guarantee your safety? No one. It is not the job of the government to guarantee your safety. They are there to provide you the best protection possible. The person who is there to guarantee your safety is you. That's why we have a Second Amendment. The Second Amendment is for you to guarantee your own safety, the safety of your property, your family, your loved ones. You are the guarantee. You are the safety. That's why we have the Second Amendment. Not your local police, not the state police, not the federal agencies. You. You are your safety. Your community, your block, the people who live on the block with you, the people who live in the apartment building with you. You are the guarantee of safety for you. No one else. Everyone else is reacting after the fact, and they're trying to prevent the spread of that insurrection, that danger. They are there to limit that danger. No one else. They can't do more than that. You are the first line of defense. So you have to protect yourself. And that is the proper way to look at it. If you're waiting for the government to save you, you will probably die. It's like you want to call 911, they'll have someone there in 7 to 8 minutes. but most of the emergencies that 911 are required for are over within 2 to 3 minutes. They aren't going to be there in time. You have to do it for yourself. So that's the way I look at that. Others may disagree. I'm happy to hear those arguments, but I'm trying to make clear my understanding of that. I hope that understanding helps people. Let me see here. Bear with me. I'm trying to go through. And it's fine. Grammatically clever. I'm happy to have these voices, to have these conversations. Whether people agree with me or disagree with me, that's okay. We need this, especially at this moment when there's so much happening and there's so much that's confusing. We need this. So let's have these conversations. Let's talk this out. And if you disagree with me, then let's have that conversation so that we can then turn around and more efficiently tell our members of Congress, our members of Senate, this is what we want. This is what we think should be happening. This is what is the long-term goal for our country. And they serve us. It's not Joe Schumer, Chuck Schumer telling us, oh, this is what's going to happen right now. No, Chuck. It's what we're going to tell you. We are the citizens. We are the ones in control. And ultimately, we get to decide. Not even President Trump has the last word on this. We do. We get to say, President Trump, you've gone too far. Or we say that you haven't gone far enough. Or you've done just enough, don't do more. We get to decide that. We need to step up, just like we have to protect ourselves. The responsibility of protecting your life is on you first. Everyone else, government, way after that. But you are responsible first. Our government in our local, state, and federal is your responsibility first. And the elected officials far down the line, they answer to us. The problem is that for over 50 years, we have gotten lazy as a nation. And we have allowed those politicians through slick ads and a lot of money, that's Democrats and Republicans alike, that we have gotten lazy and just lazy. And we allowed these individuals to assume that they have more power, that they get to tell us what we're going to do in our lives. That's not the way it works. So I'm happy that you're watching. Let's have these conversations, folks. Okay, let me move on. I know there's a bunch of, oh my God, there's a lot of comments here, folks. I'm not even close to caught up. Didn't realize it. Great. I love this. I still have news to get to. I still have the actual news stories I've looked at, but I want to talk to you guys more than anything else. This is about talking to you. This is about having the conversation. This is what CNN and ABC, the New York Times, MS Now, they won't do this. I will, because we need this, especially at this moment. Dow says, I've consistently been of the opinion that I do not want a long, drawn-out conflict that seemingly has no end in sight, like Iraq or Afghanistan. I agree with you. Dal, I agree with you. Within a reason. Let me put in a stipulation here. I think the problem we have had is because the public have been so reactive instead of proactive that politicians have gotten away with being able to do anything that they want. And so if there is no accountability, if there's no problem, Tim Walz, great example. I'm just pulling this up right now because everyone knows about what's happening in Minnesota, the fraud that is there, billions of dollars of fraud. And it was allowed to varying degrees by Tim Walz, by Keith Ellison, the Attorney General for Minnesota, and much of the leadership there, possibly even Ilhan Omar. We know this. It is documented. So we can't say, it's not a question, was there fraud? Yes, there was. We have the documentation. That has been identified and clearly stated. Was it allowed by the government of Minnesota? Yes, that's a fact. Absolutely true. There is no question there. The question is, what are we doing about it? The public need to speak up and say, well, remove him immediately. He's already failed. Tim Walz, I'm talking about. Keith Ellison, I'm talking about, the Attorney General. Remove them, replace them, because they are ineffective. And in fact, they're the opposite of ineffective. They are effectively destroying a state and therefore harming the people of that state and the rest of the union. We don't have an end in sight in Minnesota. We know there is a factual, absolutely documented problem. How are we resolving it? We don't know. There is no end in sight. Oh, there's a lot of bickering and there's a lot of partisanship and there's a lot of showmanship on TV, videos, and such, but we don't know what the end is. That's because we, as the people, have not spoken clearly and en masse. And that's what we need to do. And then we'll get a resolution to what's happening in Minnesota. We'll get a resolution what's happening with Don Lemon and the church and walking into churches and terrorizing people in those churches. We will have a solution when the American people speak up and say, this is what should happen. But we're not doing that. And so that's also why we saw in Iraq and in Afghanistan, we saw that we went in there with no plan. Every war should have a plan. And that plan should be, and if you're asking me, and I've said this on this program before, some people will agree, some people will disagree. That's fine. And I've said, if an American soldier, any troop of the United States, puts a foot on foreign soil and they are fighting, we own that land. Period. Full stop. Done. We should, if we're going to invade, if we actually had soldiers that dropped and we invaded with troops into Venezuela, we own Venezuela. If we're going to enter into Iran, and we're not, so far there are no troops on the ground in Iran for the United States. If we put one soldier with his foot on the ground in Iran, then we should own Iran. Now, someone say, but that's too far. That's too much. Fantastic. If as a nation, we do not agree with that, we think it isn't worth it, our soldiers are more valuable than that country, that land, then don't send them. Then we shouldn't be fighting. And I say that strongly. And I said that about Iraq. I said that about Afghanistan. You can go back, you can look at the videos, you can see the articles I wrote at the time. If we do not take it over, it is not worth fighting for. We should. Iraq and Afghanistan, whether you like it or not, should be commonwealths of the United States at this moment. They should be our territory. Why? We fought over it for 20 years. Our soldiers bled and died for that land. Period. We take it over. We won. Take it over. Rebuild it. Rebuild the infrastructure, build real buildings for them, colleges, schools, electricity, water, give them the infrastructure that the people need so that they can develop and make choices for themselves, and then they can become a state, a commonwealth, or go to be independent. But until that happens, we own that land. We give them everything they need to develop, and then they make a choice. But that's 2 generations from now. We should own them. That being said, we didn't do that. Same thing here. We need an end goal. Are we there to take over Iran? If we have a single troop, I don't care if it's a Marine, I don't care if it's Navy, Air Force, if our troops are fighting, bleeding, and dying, then we own whatever it is they are fighting over. The winner, the whole point of fighting a war is the winner gains the spoils. The spoils in this case is a country. We take it. It's ours, period. So if we're going to do this, and if American troops are in danger of dying, then we should be able to own Iran. If you disagree, fantastic. Get together, get as many of your congressmen and as many of your senators together, make a complete, coherent argument and say, no, that's not worth it. And we should be telling our president, Donald Trump, and all of his staff and say, hey, we need a clear answer. Are we taking over Iran? Yes or no? We need a clear answer on, is this about regime change? If the Ayatollah is dead, and we know there was a question about that earlier, it is still unclear. He may or may not be dead at this time, which is maybe a good thing, maybe a bad thing. I'll get to that. Then if that's the answer, if that's what we need, fantastic. Let's do that. If the answer is, well, we just need to destroy all of their missiles, all of their nuclear weapons, all of their tanks, then okay, we'll do that. But we need an answer. We can't just be there. We can't just hang out. That's what we did in Iraq. That's what we did in Afghanistan. That's why those two failed, because we didn't say, this is what we're here to do. And in the case of Iraq and Afghanistan, the answer that we should have said is, we own it. We're going to rebuild it, but we own it. And in terms of Iran, I think the goal is, great. We can't trust the theocratic, terroristic regime of Iran. It has to go away. Don't know what's going to replace it. Don't really care. But the Ayatollah, the mullahs, they have to be gone. They're gone, period. And if they exist, we continue to fight. If that's the answer, fantastic. But I need to know that. The world needs to know that. And we need to do that quickly. By the end of the day today, Donald Trump should be making that statement. That's not political. That's not Republican. That's not Democratic. It has nothing to do with politics. This is war. Every soldier, every troop needs to know what they are doing. They need to have a mission so that they can accomplish that mission. And if they don't have a mission, then they will die. So I think we agree on that. Let me go on. John, hey John, good to see you, man. John R says, only mixed feelings I have is, why don't all of U.S. operations have as awesome names like Operation Epic Fury? Hey, it is a good name for it. It is. I think the Israelis are calling it Operation Lionheart or Lionhawk, but I like Epic Fury better. It's kind of got a movie quality to it. Hey, Trump is great like that. Let me see. I know I'm trying to catch up, folks. I'm about halfway into the comments here. Kawan says, I think it's the way local New York Republicans can help out ICE to local laws that won't make it as bad as it was in Minnesota in a few months. Okay, in reference to the ICE thing, it is the cooperation of government. And it's one of the things I kind of agree with Larry Sharpe. My buddy Larry Sharpe, who's a libertarian, a former Marine, he's a Marine like myself, and he's running for governor. We go back and forth on a lot of different issues, but he's right. We need to have local and state officials, the police and law enforcement, need to work with federal law enforcement to mass deport the illegal aliens that shouldn't be in our country. They have to work together. And as long as they work together, that's not a Republican thing. That's not a Democrat thing. That is an America thing. If you've broken our law, our laws matter. They matter because they apply to everyone. And it's the same response to everyone. Are you illegal? Yes. Therefore, you get deported. Period. Full stop. Done. That's the law, and it applies to everyone in that same way. And it doesn't matter if you're, but I've been a gardener for the last 15 years. Are you illegal? Yes. Get out the country. You're being deported. Period. Full stop. Oh, you're an MS-13. Same thing. You're an illegal. Get out the country. You're gone. Then we can deal with, okay, who are we going to let come back into our country? Well, the gardener who was here for 15 years, he's a good guy. Let him come back. The MS-13 gang member, no. So what we need to do is establish this is the law. The law applies to everyone equally. Enforce the law, and then address the people with compassion, those who deserve that compassion. That has nothing to do with politics. That has to do with law, and that's it. So that's what we should see. John says, Saudi Arabia says it's offering all their capabilities to the USA in the fight against Tehran. That's true. And like I said, 3 weeks ago, we were talking about this on the Sunday live stream. And yes, I will have a show tomorrow at 2:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. But yeah, we've been talking about this for a while. Saudi Arabia wanted this war. They're not upset with Donald Trump or Israel or the United States. They're happy. They wanted us to fight. The UAE, United Arab Emirates, wanted us in this fight. Qatar wanted us to take down Iran, the Ayatollah. They wanted this. Many in the Middle East, including Egypt and others, wanted us in this fight. So, people are saying, oh, no, no, it's, this is just America, Donald Trump being wild and crazy and unique. No, that's why you're not hearing, we're not being condemned as dogs, and all diplomatic relations are being cut between Europe or Germany or France or the United Kingdom. They're not cutting diplomatic ties with us. Why? Because they wanted this to happen. They can't do it themselves. They don't have the power. They don't have the influence. So it didn't change because of them, but they're perfectly fine to let Donald Trump. He did it, and he did it unilateral. Look, it's not my fault. You're hearing this from Keir Starmer. It's not my fault. We didn't help the United States. Donald Trump did this unilaterally, which means all the credit goes to Donald Trump, but so does all of the blame. It's because England doesn't have the power to do anything about it. That's why. Let's see. Hey, Charles is with me. Chuck. Hey, Chuck. By the way, folks, if you haven't seen, every Monday, almost every Monday, we have the Monday Opinion Roundtable. It is a panel discussion. That's Charles, Chuck from Long Island. He's actually the host of that, not my channel, his channel. And he is there with Joe Hanush, who's a libertarian, and I go on as well, and we talk about the issues affecting us all in a panel discussion, as separate from what I do tomorrow, which is just me talking to you guys. Chuck says, tough when the practicality of the world and what your heart wants collide. I believe in what Libertarian presidential nominee Chase Oliver said, that we should be exporting peace, not bombs. I know I've met several times Libertarian national presidential candidate of 2024, Chase Oliver. He's a nice guy. He's also wrong. Completely, absolutely wrong. Libertarians on this issue are wrong. And let me explain. America is a superpower. We are the superpower. Again, you don't have to like that. That is what it is. That is a reality of the world, which means we are not allowed to be isolationist. We can't be. And we are the police of the world. Again, you don't have to like it. I don't like it. It is a fact. We cannot retreat away from the rest of the world. If we do, and we did that to an extent under the Biden administration, we did that to an extent under the Obama administration, and the instability in the world skyrocketed. The amount of terrorism in the world skyrocketed. It is absolutely devastating to the globe if we are not the superpower, the police, the ones in charge. That's it. Now, Chase is a peacenik. Fantastic. It is wonderful to have that ideal. It isn't realistic. It is great to say, I believe in pacifism. Fantastic. But MS-13 doesn't. The Hamas does not. The Houthis, Hezbollah, they don't. They're terrorists. They believe in blowing up women and children. So you can believe in peace all you want. They're still setting off suicide bombs. That's just the reality of the world. You may want something, it's not realistic. And to say that, well, the United States is exporting peace. We do, in massive quantities. The United States, in particular, not only the country of the United States, but the individual people in the United States are the most generous and giving in the entire world. Individual Americans contribute more to famine relief and to support people in natural disasters than most countries in the world. Over half the countries in the world don't donate or don't have a GDP as much as American citizens donate to charity. We are exporting peace. The rest of the world doesn't necessarily care about that. And that's the problem. And that's the thing that Chase Oliver doesn't understand and doesn't factor in. And that's why he lost, to be fair. I've said this, and I've said this to some degree to Chase, to his face. I've met him several times in person. I don't think he's a bad person. I think his policy is wrong, 1,000% wrong. I've talked to other libertarians that I know, many of them who say the same thing. And I've told them to their face, they're wrong. This is the reason why. It's a great idea. It's not functional. It's a fantasy. It's a political fantasy. And people may not like that, but it's the truth. And you can always disagree with me. That's fine. I'm willing to hear the arguments, but I don't think they match up in reality. They are fantastic for a fantasy. They are horrible as a realistic policy. Let me see here. Dow's says government will only have the resources to protect continuation of government critical infrastructure. Government will only have the resources to protect continuation of government critical resources. Okay. I'm not sure where we're going there. Let's see. Chuck says, should Israel be doing this alone or with the Saudi Arabia and or in coordination with many Middle East countries? We already are. Saying a prayer for the armed forces of the United States and for a low death count of all people. We can't do anything about death counts. Wars are wars. And it would be nice if there's a low number, but who knows? And I guarantee you, Iran will lie, and they'll make up numbers because they never tell the truth. They are liars. And we see this verified all the time. Same thing, it's like what they train their terrorist units to say, that, no, everyone who died is a woman. But we verify and find out that, no, everybody who died in a certain attack are men. Like, let's look at Hamas. We know that Hamas says, according to Hamas, every single person who died during the Hamas-Israel war started by Hamas, everyone was a woman or a child. That's the initial report that Hamas puts out. That is an obvious, absolute lie. The second thing that Hamas said is everybody who died were only civilians. None of them were fighters. That is a lie. We know that for a fact. More than 50% of them were, in fact, fighters for Hamas. Hamas lies on a regular basis. Why? Because it gets more sympathy and empathy and more support from people like over at Columbia and Harvard University, a bunch of the bleeding heart liberals that don't pay attention to details. And that helps them to extend the fighting and the war because of compassion, misplaced compassion. Sad, but it's true. And Hamas was taught to do that by Iran, because Iran lies like that on a regular basis. So you're going to see those lies, that the numbers are going to be massively higher than they actually are. And they're going to be always women and children and disabled individuals, anything that will make your heart bleed and be upset, because it's part of the war, but that's the propaganda end of the war, not the physical shooting side of it. And Iran knows that, and they will do that. Mind you, this is the same Iran that turned off the internet and denied that they were killing any of their people, while every international agency said there's at least 6,000 Iranians that were killed for saying the rent is too high, inflation is too high. And because they said that, which is what started this entire incident, because they said the inflation is too high, Iran killed at least, at the minimum, 6,000, which they said didn't happen. Didn't happen. No one's dead. 6,000 are dead. We were able to eventually get them to confirm that much. And the numbers can be as high, depending on which international source you're looking at, as 30,000. A lot of Americans are completely in the dark about all of this. And this is part of the reason why the United States went to war with the Iranian government. We're not upset with the Iranian people. We're upset with the Iranian government. If you notice, in everything I'm talking about the Ayatollah, I'm talking about the IRGC, I'm talking about the government. I'm not talking about the people. And that's why we have been attacking the institutions, the offices, the infrastructure of the government, not the people. The government of Iran has been attacking civilians. There is a big difference. So, will there be a low death count? Depends on what you call low. It's called a war. There's going to be a death count. It may or may not be low, depending on how anyone feels. Is Saudi Arabia working with with the United States and also, therefore, Israel on this? The answer is yes. So we know that. That's happening right now. We're going to see that continue. Let me see. Let's go on. Yeah, I know. I saw you. I know. Sorry, I'm talking to family. Got to walk my dog. Wasn't expecting this to go on as long as it did, because I'm just talking. I haven't even gotten to the news. I'm just talking with you guys, but everyone has an opinion, so that's fine. And I need to, because I wasn't expecting to be on as long, I need to walk my dog. Bear with me, folks. Bear with me. I haven't. I have not done anything to properly prepare. This was just a spur of the moment decision today. So hang on. There. Yeah, I know. Bear with me, folks. I'm trying to find. I need something to fill the time. I'm going to continue this conversation in just a moment because there's still a lot of comments I have not gotten to. But I need to take some time. Here we go. There. I will play this. I will put this up available. I didn't expect as many people to be responding. Wow. I'm loving it. Thank you. Thank you, each and every who is responding right now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to walk my dog. We've been on for an hour and 45 minutes right now. So I want everybody take a moment, get something to eat, walk around, have a cigarette, walk your dog. I'm also going to check on some of the latest news updates on what's happening in the war so we can continue our conversation intelligently. I'm going to try and catch up to everyone's questions. Thank you for the super chat. I did see that. I believe that was Chuck. Thank you for the $3. It matters. We're going to play this for the time being. I'll be back in about, let's see, it's 1:23. We'll be back at 2 p.m. in the afternoon, and I'll continue picking up with your questions, your thoughts, your suggestions on how the U.S. should deal with the Iran war. Okay, 2 p.m. We will be back. Until then, I want you to, this is our Monday opinion roundtable with Charles Guaria, Joe Hanush, and myself.
And I am going to bring on the crew tonight, which is the returning Joe Hanush, as well as Michael Voss, and talk. We're going to kick it off by talking about the weather in certain parts of the country. So without further ado, I bring to you Joe Hanush and Michael Voss. What's going on, guys?
Hello.
Hey.
How you doing?
I am great. Thanks for being here. Yeah, Joe, so you were away for 2 weeks. It's great to have you back.
Oh my God, it is good to be back. It feels like it's been like 2 months, not 2 weeks. But the first week I was gone, so this is 2 weeks ago. My voice was gone, so my voice left me. Right. So I had to leave the show for that week. And then last week there was what happened last week? I don't even remember what happened last week.
Convention,
yeah. Was
it convention? I'm trying to think. Yeah, it was. I was busy though, and I want to thank Gabe Wozniak and Mike Tremont for filling in for me those two weeks. I really appreciate it. I owe them each one of them. So anytime they need me to fill in, I got to fill in for them. So I appreciate it, and thank you guys for bearing with me. I'm really glad to be back. Good to see you guys.
No worries. Mike had a great line. He said that he knew the only reason why I called him is because I needed a libertarian who at least once lived in Florida. So he was the only other one I knew.
He fits the bill. He does. Yeah, he fits that bill for sure.
He fit the bill.
Yeah.
Of course.
And they're both good people. Gabe Wozniak and Mike Tremont, both good people. Gabe is running for office right now as a libertarian. Mike Tremont ran as the vice presidential libertarian candidate in 2024. So they're both awesome, and they're really good people.
Yeah, absolutely. And Mike, how are you?
I'm doing great. Feeling good, except for the snow. We just had, I think it was about 12 inches of snow. I haven't seen the official report, but it seems like it's about 12 inches. Not too bad. It stopped and it started melting right away. So, but tomorrow it's supposed to be 14 degrees. So that's going to be kind of interesting.
That's pretty nasty. Yeah, I have my reporter on the ground in Northport, also known as my sister, told me that they got about 2 inches, 2 feet today of snow up in the Northport, Long Island area. And she said all the stores were closed in Suffolk and in Nassau County. That is on Long Island, folks. For people who don't know, those counties are two of the counties on Long Island. There's more. Long Island actually includes Brooklyn and Queens. A lot of people don't know that, but they always think of it as Nassau and Suffolk. But the roads seem clear, she said. But yeah, they got up to 2 feet. of snow out there. So yeah, it's pretty rough. And you know, we have an issue here with the weather too. And I wanted to let people know that in this county of Volusia County, actually throughout Central Florida, there are cold weather shelters that are open specifically for this county, which encompasses Daytona Beach. They're going to be open through tomorrow. It is dipping into the 30s tonight with a wind chill that's going to be in the 20s. Tomorrow it is going to be a little bit warmer, but I got in the show notes and in the comments here and in the show notes on YouTube, more information on Volusia County and where you can go to get shelter. One of the places actually is going to be serving breakfast too if you stay there overnight, and that's called the Bridge. So definitely look into that and send it out to anybody who you know might need that help. So Mike, how are the roads by you, and how's Memdani doing this time around?
Well, you're already doing more to help people who are in the cold than Mandami has done. Mr. I'm going to let them sleep out in the parks and sleep under the bridges. He had 18 people die in the first month of this year, the first month of him being mayor. And that's a record, by the way. 18 people. And every mayor, Republican or Democrat, have been smart enough to say, no, bring them in this cold weather. Some of it was below zero. And Mandami's like, no, let them stay where they are. Don't you feel the warmth of collectivism there?
Oh, yeah.
But again, we had the snow, and there was this whole thing over the weekend. Mandami, because he screwed up with the snowstorm and wasn't able to get the snow removed in over a week. It took 10 days to get the snow reasonably off of the main and even secondary roads. What he decided to do is he promoted this program that almost no one has ever heard of. It's the Emergency Snow Removal Program. It's apparently been around for decades. No one ever talks about it. Last time it was used was basically in 2015, where any individual can go to the Department of Sanitation in New York, and with 2 forms of ID, you have to get 2 forms of ID and fill out a couple of papers, and then the city would pay you $19.14 an hour to remove snow, because Mandami screwed up. Now remember, we're paying some of the highest taxes in the entire country, and Mandami is looking to increase taxes. We'll talk more about that in a minute. So your taxes are going to the sanitation department to clear the snow, and the city is going to hire even more people to clear the snow as they're raising taxes. This is the epitome of someone who is completely inept in what he is, out of his depth. He has no idea what he's doing. But I think it's the funny part, which everyone was talking about. This is coming from a guy, the Democratic Socialists of America, who believes you need 0 ID to vote, one of the most important and powerful things an American citizen can do. No ID for that. To go and shovel snow, 2 forms of ID. It
is bizarre.
Isn't that? I mean, it's like, and he's like, no, it's perfectly fine. And I heard people say, oh, well, it's because it's a job. It's shoveling snow. It's not the most important thing in America. It's not deciding who's going to lead our country and make some of the stupid laws and some of the hopefully good laws. And you're like, oh, yeah, this really unimportant thing. Yeah, you need ID. And they're like, yeah.
How insane.
No, I don't get it. I don't get it.
The warmth of collectivism. Joe, have you ever felt the warmth of collectivism?
I mean, it sounds nice. I gotta admit, because when you have a collective of people, yeah, you get some warmth off of that. So I gotta say, it sounds nice, but I know it isn't. So no.
I'll take any warmth on a day like today, right, Mike?
It's been colder. I mean, today's fine. It's in the mid 30s. That's a good day. But
maybe a windbreaker or collectivism or something.
I need a little bit more than a windbreaker. This is the Florida people talking.
Right. Well, Florida, yes, windbreaker is all we need here.
Yeah. You need more than that here. But I've been through far worse. I mean, when I lived in Moscow.
I'm still very
right.
You know what's funny? In Moscow, when they have snow flurries, they get 2 feet of snow. When they get snow, it's like 6 feet. But snow flurries, it's like 2 feet of snow, and that's
2
like
feet.
every other day.
That's a light
crazy.
day. Well, they have the warmth of vodka, so that's
yeah.
a lot better than collectivism. That's for
Oh
sure.
yeah, it works. It works too.
Absolutely. Yeah, I don't recall it, but speaking of a lot of snow, when I was a kid, my parents told me I jumped off the roof of our house in Syracuse because I was like 5, 6 years old. There was so much snow you can literally just walk onto your roof and then jump off into the snow. So that's how much snow you get up in Syracuse.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, pretty wild stuff. You know what? We are on the show going to keep on top of stories. I mentioned this last week. I don't want to do like hit and runs that you see in mainstream media. And the two that we are following are the Don Lemon, George Fort story, as well as exceptional students and video cameras in public schools. To start with that one, it is going to the floor, and I was unclear based on the research I did this afternoon. The bill for cameras in special needs classes, which is called exceptional students and video cameras in public schools, is going to the floor for consideration in Tallahassee, the capital in Florida, this Wednesday. Now, I don't know if that means both the Senate and the House. Joe, do you have familiarity? Yes. The special order calendar is both the Senate and the House?
I don't know if the special order calendar is both. It shouldn't be, because they are both independent bodies. So it shouldn't be. It should be one. It passes there, then it goes to the other. So unless they expedite it somehow, but no, it should be different bodies voting on it.
Yeah. Well, I think it's on a special calendar, which is a form of expediting. So I don't know if they're both going to do it on Wednesday, but it says that's what the news report said. I have a text into Chase to see one of the co-sponsors of the bill, Chase Tremont, to see if he can respond during the course of the show so we can get a little bit more clarification. But, in other words, it's winding its way through the legislature. It has not been stopped yet. And as folks who have been tuning in for the last couple of weeks when we talk about it, everyone I speak to, whether it's online, virtually speak to, or in person, I would say conservatively 75%, but to 80% of the people want it. So I just want to keep on top of that and let you guys know it's winding its way through. And also, as far as Don Lemon on a national scale, and Georgia Fort and a few other people who went into that church, stormed that church, depending on how you view it. The lawyers for Don Lemon and Georgia Fort have argued that the government's request for a 3-month extension, because it's complex, so they could do more discovery obligations, is unwarranted. In other words, Lemon and Fort want to speed this along. And so they requested that they have a speedy trial, and we'll see where that goes. So that inched forward. I want to keep you on top of that. We won't forget it's happening. And once again, just in case, by way of reminder, they're both, and other people are indicted on charges of conspiracy and interfering with the First Amendment rights of worshipers. They, along with protesters, according to Newsweek, disrupted a January 18th service at the City's Church in St. Paul. So the government wants
Newsweek. Not Newsweek.
The government.
According to Don Lemon's live stream.
Yeah. Well, I got this from Newsweek. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. And it's interesting that Newsweek would use disrupt, right? They didn't go with like a some sort of euphemism or try to water it down. They actually use the word disrupt, which is kind of interesting, and maybe is a tell as to where this is going when the media starts talking a certain way, mainstream media. Here we only talk one way, and that's truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Alrighty, so we wanted to keep on top of those two stories for you guys. I also want to hit on the tariffs being taken away. SCOTUS and their tariffs and their 6-3 decision, which came down on Friday. And of course, naturally, Trump's not happy. No president is happy when it's something the court does goes against them, particularly the two that he appointed, Justice Amy Coney Barrett and Neil Gorsuch, who he didn't say, he refused to say whether he regretted nominating them, but he both said that he said they were both embarrassments. So Mike, we'll start with you on this one. What'd you feel about that decision? And well, let's just start there first. I got a few questions. What'd you feel about the decision overall?
They're wrong. The Supreme Court was wrong. And that's not the first time that they can be wrong. Trump's upset because they ruled against him on something that's important. And I don't think most people understand the level of importance of this. You're talking about, remember, in the first 7 months of the Trump administration, there were 8 peace deals or ceasefires and peace deals that were able to be accomplished.
Yeah.
Most of them were through some part of the tariffs that were part of the deal to get these people to talk to each other. Without that peace being there, what they have been guaranteed, then those anxieties, those reasons that they were fighting, can come back. This actually could have international instability ramifications, besides the fact that we were talking about almost $200 billion in refunds, which would affect the economy as well. It's just, it was bad. But more importantly, the Supreme Court is wrong for a very simple reason. And they didn't say that Trump didn't have the right to do this. What they essentially said is Donald Trump used the wrong law to do this, that he does have the power. It's the wrong law to make this particular thing done. And I think that's important because the power of international diplomacy sits only with the president, no one else. There is no Congress involved. There is no Supreme Court in there. That's according to the Constitution. This was part of diplomacy. We know that because he used it to create peace deals around the world. That's diplomacy. You chop it, you're chopping out his legs, you're chopping out part of the Constitution. That's why Clarence Thomas I agree with Clarence Thomas on this in the dissent. Others may see Kavanaugh or Alito a little bit more. But I think if people, and of course, regular people don't read any of these things, but I have. So that's where I stand on it. And I agree with Trump. It was horrible. It was a terrible idea.
How about you, Joe?
Okay, so I got a couple different takes on this. One of them is the constitutional take, which I agree with Michael. The president does have the constitutional right to levy tariffs, right?
Yes.
Now, so I agree with that. So I'm not a big fan as far as the SCOTUS, which is a government kind of checks and balance branch, saying, right, oh, the president doesn't have something that he does actually have the power to do. Now, from the libertarian standpoint, I think tariffs are taxes. So I'm against taxes. So if the SCOTUS determined that the president can't levy a tax in my libertarian perspective, then I'm happy about that. So I'm kind of conflicted. My different halves are in conflict right now on that issue. So I could see how the SCOTUS kind of split that way, because I think they're probably thinking the same thing. Tariff is a tax, yet the president has the authority to do it. So yeah, I can see how it's kind of split, and I'm honestly conflicted on it as well because of that. But I am kind of glad, just not the way it was done. I guess put it that way. I don't like SCOTUS saying the president can't do what the president could do, but at the same time, I'm glad they told him he can't do something that I don't want him to do. If that makes sense.
Right. No, it does. Yeah. I kind of think I fall along those lines as well. I'm happy anytime the president gets hemmed in. You know, I not because it's Trump, but I just feel like the system works. And even if you don't like the outcome, you know, the whole idea is that nobody's supposed to get everything they want, whether it's, you know, the Senate. Yeah, we don't have to go down that road. Politics 101, you know, civics 101. But the idea is there should be pushback and there should be gridlock, and your party gets what they want. Sometimes they don't. That's kind of what this is. It's a democracy. A republic is a messy situation, and sometimes you win, sometimes you lose, and that's the way it goes. So from that standpoint, I guess it's more philosophical. I kind of like it. I do think my heart tells me tariffs are taxes, and I don't like that. But I understand where, Michael, you're coming from, and the fact that it was used as negotiations. In fact, when we were at our dinner table, Donna and I, talking about this stuff when he first started doing it, that's kind of where I was at. I'm like, look, I don't like them tax. I don't like tariffs, because we might be paying more. This was in the early days when it first happened. So, but you know, if he can, you know, if he uses them as leverage and they go away quickly, that's not the end of the world either. You know what I mean? So
no,
I get like all those aspects. So I'm kind of kind of like seeing every part, and would be a bad politician because I don't have a firm opinion on this.
I think there's a second part to this, or a core part that most people don't understand. And yes, tariffs are a tax. Of course they are. The purpose of a tariff isn't the tax. It's to create self-sufficiency. It is to motivate people in any given nation, in every nation. 150 countries tariff goods from the United States. So this isn't like something unusual or brand new. Every country does this. We're just finally doing it to them reciprocally.
Right.
But the purpose is so that people in your country will create that good, whatever it might be, and be more self-sufficient and less dependent on others. And that is a long-term process. Most people are so used to whatever the legislation is or whatever politicians are talking about that you see a result in 10 days, a month or two. This is a 5 to 10 year plan to improve America. That's why it's so important. The tariffs are never about the taxes. It's about changing consumer behavior to make your country self-sufficient. And that's an important thing. We do need that. And thankfully, we had other laws and other statutes, other precedent. And that's why Trump dropped the 15% tariff out there so that it doesn't go completely haywire because of what the Supreme Court did. If they were going to do this, they should have done this in 2025. They shouldn't have waited until now.
Yeah. So, and also, Mike, I heard you say peace, that he used it as part of his leverage in peace negotiations. I don't know if either one of you mentioned, he also used it to get some of the trade deals. So, I mean, there were benefits. There was peace, there was trade deals. I totally get that. And I totally get that we can't let countries, take advantage of us with high tariffs and we just sit there and do nothing. So it was really kind of a complex thing. But
it's a lot more than the news media is trying to make it. The left-leaning news media want to make it seem like real simple. Oh, Trump just lost. There's a lot more going on here.
Yeah. Sometimes when I was a librarian, for 21 years. We would just have to say to folks, there is no answer to that. There is no answer to the question, and I kind of feel like that's what's happening here. There is no complete, because there's so many ways. I don't think Trump did anything evil. Or like the left likes to say, you said this wasn't a Hitler move. This wasn't anything evil. It was just like an economic, whether you agree or disagree. But the second part of this that I want to ask you guys, and it'll be the second question, part A and part B, and that is refunds. Do you think business is going to get a refund? And do you think, or us, we the people, and Joe, I'm going to start with you. What do you think on that? Refunds,
like a check in the mail from the government?
Yes, because we were
absolutely not. That's not going to happen. Period. We're still running a deficit. The Doge cuts were nothing that were promised. There's impossible. There's no way we're getting a check. If it is, it'll be very small and frankly irresponsible to do that. No, I don't think we're getting one. No one's even talking about it, as far as I'm hearing anyway, of anything like concrete. And yeah, I don't think, maybe I'm wrong, I don't know, but I think unless the economy starts going south and there needs to be some stimulus going in there, that's when we'll probably hear talk about it, like checks going out. But right now, I don't think so.
Okay. Mike?
So you're partially wrong, but that's okay. Let me explain.
I'm partially right. If I'm partially right, I'm partially right.
No. Both, yes.
That's like if it's partly cloudy, that also means it's partly sunny. It all depends on your point of view.
Yeah,
yes,
exactly. I'm taking it.
All right, Michael, the floor is yours.
The economy is a little soft at this moment, but I'm not really happy with the stimulus. Now, yes, we can actually inject a stimulus in. We've seen that under Obama. We saw that under Biden. That can happen even though we have the deficit and the deficit continues to grow. I was never in favor of what was going to be a dividend or a rebate or however you want to word it, a check based on the tariffs. We should never have gotten that. That money should always have gone to reduce the national debt because that has a long-term positive benefit of directly reducing inflation. So I never wanted the check. So I'm not upset about that part. The problem is, based on the way that it was done by the Supreme Court, we could see up to $200 billion being refunded to other countries, not businesses.
Whoa,
countries.
really?
Yeah. Because they had to shut it down immediately, and deals were made based on that. And there have been businesses in countries that have paid the tariff already. It could be as much as $200 billion that would have to be reimbursed. That's a problem. Now, no country so far has come out and said, give me the refund, because this is still up in the air. And Trump is still looking for even more precedent in other laws to tack on even more tariffs, because China is making out like a bandit now. Remember, China said we got into a tariff war with China in 2025 in the summer because of rare earth metals, which we need if we want to maintain our quality of life, the technology we have. And they were going to strangle us on that because we're dependent on them until we take over Greenland. And so that was a problem. So we hit them with 150% tariffs. Well, we wound up dropping that back down to about 25% on most goods.
I remember that. Sure.
Because of the Supreme Court, that's now down to 15%. Okay. The two countries that are making the most, have benefited the most, Brazil and China. Well, that kind of, Chairman Xi, the CCP, Chinese government, they're laughing in our face right now. Everything we were doing in terms of international diplomacy just got blown up, and they're winning. That's just really bad.
Right. We got a comment here. I want to bring this up really quick. So Joel has some information on cashback. Chuck Schumer claimed Trump's tariffs cost each family $6,500. Liz Warren wants to send out checks to families. Yeah, well, all right. So there is some talk about that.
Chuck Schumer's making that math.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. So it's not surprising that the Democratic Party would jump on that, because it sounds good. It's that whole rhetoric of theirs that can sound good, but at the same time, they probably privately know it wouldn't happen. So not at 6,500. And how do you figure that out? Because how much of that is based on whether or not you actually were shopping and shop for the products that were all of a sudden higher? I mean, forget the businesses. Let's just think of us, we the people. Like, how would you even bother to figure that out? And also,
think of all the steel beams you're not buying anymore. I mean, that's how we get to that number.
Our whole backyard.
We're buying industrial products that would go to mega businesses like steel, and everyone's just running around with steel I-beams, right?
Yeah,
that's how we get that math. That's how we get it.
Joe texted me the other day. He was like, "How come every steel company around here is out of steel beams?" I said, "Because Donna and I are buying them." And the other thing is with paying back countries, it's almost like the same thing, right? Like, how would you figure out the damage done? Oh, and also, if we were to pay back country A because our tariffs were too high, don't you think the DOJ would start looking into other countries' tariffs being too? And also we got these lawsuits. Also we got these international claims that you owe me money because your tariffs are too high. And where does that go from there? You're going to go to the UN and try to hammer out tariff rebates for every you know what I mean? We can easily retaliate.
Yeah. You can't. There's no court for this kind of thing.
I know.
So, and no country wants to have that kind of investigation on their international trades and transactions.
Yeah.
It's not worth it to them. They'd rather lose a couple billion, $10 billion here or there each, rather than get into this and then suddenly everyone's looking at where all the money's going. And that's a problem.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
However, if you took that idea and brought it to the UN, you could create jobs, and they could work on that problem for a good 20, 25 years.
Don't give them any ideas.
Where do people get this idea that the UN actually has any power whatsoever and that they're actually useful for anything? They are useless. There are no international laws. Screw everyone. Goes, oh, but the human right. Screw that. Okay, let's be honest here. Okay, first and foremost, we're America. If you don't like what we do, you suck. Too bad. We're a superpower. We are the superpower of the world. We are the boss of the world. We are the empire, and no one's knocking us off the hill for quite some time. So kick rocks. That's it.
Wait, hold on. You're right about the UN. Well, the crowd loves it. Absolutely. Yeah, the UN's like a debating body. Joe, you look like you're going to say something. You got something to say?
Oh, he completely hates what I said. Go ahead.
No, Michael, I think you're correct. The UN doesn't have any power. I think it's laughable, literally laughable, that we would think there would be some kind of international court on this. And even that would be the most corrupt court in the world, literally, because there's no government out there that wants you peeking behind the curtain at all. There's no, like, this is going to be swept under the rug. No one wants this. They might complain about it, like give lip service to their own people. Like, oh, we're not getting a check. We're mad. They will not do a single thing about it because they don't want anyone behind the curtain. Like, everyone's in debt. Everyone's getting money from somewhere. To pay that back, no one wants to do that. So, no, there will not be any kind of mediation going on between countries that try to pay each other off. That's not going to happen. And listen, about the whole tariff thing, though. I'm a free trade guy. Again, this is where my libertarianism comes in here. I'm free trade. I wish other governments would do free trade. I wish we would do free trade. It should be 0%. I understand where President Trump is coming from to do it. And Michael is correct. What he was saying, previously was that this is a long-term thing, a 5-10 year longer term thing to make us self-sufficient, which I agree with, by the way. Again, I'm a libertarian. That's a libertarian thought. Like, I want us to be self-sufficient, not only as a country, but I want my state to be self-sufficient. I want my county to be self-sufficient. I want my neighborhood to be self-sufficient. I should be able to go to a farmer's market and trade for whatever I want. Steal beans if I want to, That's a bit of an exaggeration, but you get it, Yeah. I would love it for me to be free trade everywhere.
Yeah. All right. Actually, Joel figured out, he knows how Schumer came up with that $6,500. He calculated it by lying. 100%.
Yeah.
I expected that calculator. Yes.
Pretty much his entire career, right?
And that's why not one news person in the mainstream news media will ever ask him, "How did you get that number? Where'd that number come from?" They'll never ask.
Yeah. That reminds me, we need a Democratic voice, and I do have somebody. I'm not going to say on the air just in case it doesn't work out, but someone that I see all the time at Daytona Beach City Hall who is very excited about coming on. He could probably come on twice a month. So we're halfway there, to quote John Bon Jovi.
I'll take it. I would love it. It'll be fun.
He's a cool dude, man. He's totally like like the rest. He's totally got your guys' personalities as far as accepting opinions and all that stuff. And so so hopefully sooner rather than later, next month, it'll be next month, which is right around the corner. So hopefully sooner than later we will have that third voice on here. There was Joe, speaking of things within Florida, and I mentioned Daytona Beach. So things within Florida, you were at the I'm not going to say it right, but you were at a convention for the Libertarians. Tell us about that.
Yes. That's where I went to, very recently, and it was out in Clearwater, Tampa Bay area, basically. It was, in preparation for, we do the business stuff there. We elect our officers. We change bylaws or our platform, or we elect delegates to our national convention. So we kind of do all that business there. We talk, strategize, etc. So I did that this past weekend, and it was good to be there. And we like anything, we debate back and forth on different things, again, strategy, etc. But I was very happy about that. And Gabe was there, who was on the show 2 weeks ago. So it was good to see him out there. What what else? Oh man, I could say so much about that. But we kept all our same officers, which I don't think has happened in like ever, as long as I've been on the party anyway. We kept all our same officers, so it's good. I like stability in like I don't like us to have like kings or anything and have long term, people in one position forever. But I do like stability, so it is good that we had keeping the same officers going, the same leadership going. And we didn't, argue too much. It was a short meeting, relatively speaking, and I think for the most part we got along. So it was good. I got to see all the candidates, all of them, running for libertarian candidates running for office here currently in Florida, myself included. So it was good to see. We got to talk with one another, and some people offer their volunteering for them. So yeah, it was good. It was a productive, energizing meeting.
Nice. Was there any statements, any formal pressers or decisions made policy wise?
Yes.
We actually didn't pass anything. Again, that's where it was kind of short because we didn't have anything up to vote on. No platform or bylaws changes. We had one kind of like internal, again, strategy discussion. It ended up failing, so nothing got passed. So it was pretty quiet overall, and yeah, pretty good. I mean, we got along, so that was good.
There's a dragon on the wire, breathing digital flames. No sound bites allowed is the name of his game. With a coffee in one hand and his puppy on his lap, cigarettes curling, smoking his political trap. Michael Vass roars through the screen, he flies, painting red and blue skies with his fiery cry. He's the world's watchdog, calling out the bluff. Right-wing swagger, but his heart's pretty tough. He's a Republican dragon with his truthful flight, fights the battles unseen in the shadows of the night. From policy to passion, he breaks it all down, giving a voice to the voiceless, wearing his crown. Caffeine-fueled mornings, the smoke curls dance, Fluffy at his feet, giving life one more chance. Through algorithms and bias, he cuts straight and clear. Michael's roar echoes in the hemisphere. Michael Vass roars through the screen, he flies, painting red and blue skies with his fiery cry. He's the world's watchdog, calling out the bluff. Right-wing swagger, but his heart's pretty tough. No sound bites allowed is his ultimate creed. A dragon's perspective where facts are the seed. Standing tall on his battlefield of thoughts, guarding the truth that others forgot. Michael Vass roars through the screen, he flies, painting red and blue skies with his fiery cry. He's the world's watchdog, calling out the bluff. Right-wing swagger, but his heart's pretty tough.
All right, everybody. Oh, where am I? Hang on. Everyone should be able to hear me. Give me a second. My camera's acting up. Why is my camera acting up? Oh. Let's try. Hang on, folks. My camera's acting up. Bear with me. Bear with me, folks. My camera is acting up a little bit. I will have that up in 1 second. Don't know why it's acting so weird. Should have it up. Where's my... where is it? Boom. Okay. I can see it. Can you guys see? I don't. Do you guys see me? You can hear me. Okay. I'm not sure why anyone's not able to see me. Hang on. I'm trying to fix the graphics. I have no idea. Oh, there's that. Okay, there's that. That's working. Why is my camera not working? How about that? Did that change? No. Oh my God, why is it doing this to me? Bear with me, folks. I'm live. I went on a break and suddenly everything broke. Yeah, it looks like it. It shouldn't be. No, the intro overlay is off. And I don't know why. Oh, there we go. Okay. Okay, don't know what happened there. I apologize, folks. It's just... See, I didn't prepare anything before I went live. I just came on this morning, and so nothing is prepared. Everything's a little bit wild and crazy. So, first thing, now that we're back, I want to mention one thing right off the bat. If you have a young child, please pay attention to your child. While I was out walking my dog, and I was on the phone with one of the individuals who's in the chat, and we were talking about updates about what's going on that I haven't been able to speak about in the U.S. attacking Iran and the Iran war. And as I'm walking my dog, I see down about a block away from me, this 5-year-old child walked by himself over to the corner of the street. Now we're on a secondary street, not the main road, but he walks on over and there's traffic coming by. And he stops at the corner and he's just by himself, no parent, no adult. And then he kind of starts walking into the street, active. There's no light. He's just walking into the street. So I'm screaming at the kid and I'm trying to drag my dog, Khan, trying to get there closer to him. And the kid's kind of there. And the cars, thank God, saw this child. And they're beeping their horns, trying to get some adult, his parents, to come and get that kid. And they're slow. They're going like 1 mile an hour, or a couple of them stopped. The kid went back to the corner because I was yelling at him and one other adult was yelling at him because there's only like 3-4 adults that were visually within about a block away from this kid. And we're screaming from a block away, get back onto the sidewalk, go back to your mom. And no parent, no adult came over. And then a guy just stopped his car, opened up his door, got out in the middle of the street, just got out, grabbed the kid, because the kid turned around and just went right back into the middle, dead into the middle of the street, and got confused because the 3 adults that were looking at him were like, oh my God, get to the sidewalk. The kid's like, what happened? Because we're all screaming at him. And so he got confused. He stopped dead in the middle of the street. This guy who got out of his car, an older man, comes, picks the kid up, takes him over to the sidewalk, puts him down, and then his mother, apparently his mother, the young woman, comes sauntering. She's walking slowly, kind of chuckling. She's got a smile on her face. Walks on over and goes, oh, come here, my little boy. And the kid goes right to her. And we're like, where were you? Your kid was in the middle of the street. She's like, she's like, and then walks off like nothing happened. Like it was no big deal. Her kid nearly died. While I was on break, I nearly watched a 5-year-old get run over by a car. And his mom, apparently his mom, is just like, oh, look at him. He's such a precocious kid. I mean, seriously, people, take care of your kids. This is ridiculous. This should never happen. That woman should lose her kid. And I swear, if it wasn't, I'm walking my dog and I'm on the phone with someone, and the guy who I was talking to, who's in he's been back and forth in the chat. He heard me. I'm screaming in the chat. And he's hearing me and it's like, oh my God, what's going on? I'm like, kid's about to get run over. Please watch your kids. I know it's a warmish day. The snow is melting. Pay attention to your kid. Look, little hoochie mama. I understand some guy may be looking at you because, oh my God, you don't have to wear your big winter jacket. And so you're letting them see all your goods. Fantastic for you. Watch the kid. I don't care if it's a different baby daddy. Watch the kid. There's no reason why a 5-year-old should be walking by himself into the middle of traffic and mom doesn't show up for a minute and a half. I'm sorry. That should never happen. It's terrifying. My God, what's wrong with some of these people? Sorry, I just had to get that off my back because I just saw that while we were out on break. I hope everyone else had a better break than I did, but that's what I got to see. Okay. Now that we dealt with that, let me address some of the news. First and foremost, there is now, I'm being told while I was on break, that there is an FBI warning. I think Grismatically Clever mentioned or asked the question earlier about should Americans be worried about terrorist cells in America. The FBI has put out a high warning across the United States to be aware, to be on high alert, because terrorist cells do exist. We know that from the Biden-Harris administration. It is documented. We know that some of these known and suspected terrorists have come into America, over 300% more than previously, did come into America under the Biden-Harris administration. I covered it at the time for 4 years. And so these cells do exist. And since we are actively at war and Iran is losing and the Ayatollah may or may not be dead, they believe that these cells may activate and may try to attack American citizens. Please be aware of that. And remember, the first line of defense for you, your family, your loved ones, and your property is you. That's what the Second Amendment is all about. And for all those people who say, why do you need a rifle? Why do you need a shotgun? Why do you need a handgun? This is why. Because terroristic cells exist in America due to democratic open border policy. These cells are here. No, we don't know how many. It could be 1. It could be 1,000. I don't know. But cells do exist. They are a danger to the American people. And since everyone doesn't walk outside with a police officer because the FBI cannot be on every corner, the answer is your safety is your responsibility first. Yeah, you can call 911 and in 8 minutes, 911 police will show up. But by the time they show up, the entire incident will be over. If we look at mass shootings are a great example of what happens. Within the first 1 to 3 minutes, the majority of people, and usually it's within the first minute, the most people are going to die in that incident. The majority of people who are going to die within the first minute of a mass shooting, whether it's at a school or anywhere else. And the only person who's protecting you is you. The police may show up in 3, 4, 5, 8 minutes. That's already too late. You are responsible. That's what the Second Amendment is for, to protect you. When the government, they'll come by as soon as they can, they won't be able to protect you from everything. You have to protect yourself. So I did want to mention that. I think that's important to address. As I mentioned before, it is unclear if the Ayatollah is dead or alive. We know that the foreign minister of, and I think I have an overlay for this. Bear with me. Yeah, here it is. Bear with me. I'll show you what I'm talking about here. So while we were away, this news came out that the Iranian foreign minister says that his country is ready to de-escalate just hours after the start of the war. This is an article by Shane Galvin. I'm not sure which of the sources this is, but we now see that Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Arghich, Arghichi, Argarich, I'm not sure how to pronounce that last name. I'm just not. Stated that that Iran is ready for de-escalation. They were being interviewed today. He goes on to say there is no communication right now, but if Americans want to talk to Iran, they know how they can contact the foreign minister. He said this to NBC News. He goes on to say, we are certainly interested in de-escalation. This is not their war. This is an imposed war, blah, blah. This is a war by choice of the United States. Yes, it was. We don't want war. We don't want escalation in our region. We are ready for de-escalation. Okay, so, and he says the attack should stop first, and then there is a possibility to talk, and we can consider that. Now, we do not know if the Ayatollah is already dead. We have heard that Iranian forces have said thus far, why is this over here? Sorry. Not sure what's my entire system right now is just going all haywire. Anyway, we are not sure whether or not what? Hang on, folks. Bear with me. This is stupid. There it goes. We are not sure. Israeli forces have said that they have eliminated some 500 key personnel for the Iranian government, advisors and generals and such. Iran, the foreign minister, is denying that, but it is unclear if they even know who's in charge. The mere fact that the foreign minister of Iran right now is saying, to their knowledge, that the Ayatollah and his key council are still alive, the fact that he says to his knowledge, that he isn't saying this as a fact, means that no one knows. It is not clear. The Ayatollah could be dead, or he could be safe, or he could be injured. By the way, if the Ayatollah is injured at 86 years of age, that's almost the same thing as a death sentence. He would most likely die from his injuries. But the fact that they don't know means that something happened. Israel has been at least somewhat successful. The United States has been at least somewhat successful in injuring the hierarchy of the Iranian theological regime. In addition, we have learned that the main air force of Iran has been totally taken out by the United States using drones and Tomahawk missiles, which is why right now the United States and Israel control the air. Other than missiles being fired, we control the entire airspace at this moment because we took out all of the air forces of Iran. This is changing the world. The whole idea that Europe, England have any power whatsoever, that secondary nations have any power whatsoever, is evaporated. There is only one superpower. And the thought that the United States can't do anything by itself is evaporated. We took out Venezuela. We took out the leader Maduro by ourselves. We took out Iran by ourselves. We bombed their nuclear facilities by ourselves. Didn't need anyone else, and we did it efficiently and effectively and immediately. And we're doing it again. We don't need England. We don't need coalitions. The only reason why they do that is because weak presidents need backup. They need someone else to share the blame when they screw up. And when I'm saying that, I'm talking about Obama and I'm talking about Biden specifically. They were afraid to stand up and say, this is what America is doing. Whether you agree with it or not is a separate issue. They couldn't handle that. They can't make decisions for themselves or by themselves. They can't handle the weight of being the superpower of the world. And as such, you had Obama bowing down to foreign nations. You had Biden bumbling around, didn't know what he was talking about because he was a part-time zombie president. Whether you like that or not, doesn't matter. That's what he was We know that. We all got to see him. We know now that there was a massive cover-up by Democrats and the mainstream media to protect his image. America doesn't need Europe. We don't need a coalition of other countries. We can do it by ourselves. We can. And that changes the dynamics of all international policy. It changes the dynamics of the world. We are in a new era that we probably have been in for the last 50, 75 years, but now we are being obvious about it. It is no longer a, talked about behind closed doors. It's not something that people just knew but didn't acknowledge. It's acknowledged. We are it. And this makes it very clear. And that changes the way that we do politics with the rest of the world. I should note that Canada and Australia, as I was able to see over the break, Canada and Australia now support the United States. And I'm very surprised. Australia, I expected. Canada has stood beside the United States. They don't like the way this is being done. They acknowledge it needed to be done. And this is the answer that you're hearing from around the world. I told you that at the very beginning of this show, that everyone wanted Iran gone. And I say this, not the people, but the government, the Ayatollah, the theological, fanatical Islamist government that supports terrorism around the world, that has killed people of every nation around the world for the last 47 years. Everyone wants them gone. Every country has suffered from the terrorism that Iran has supported and instituted and instilled in every country around the world. So they're all happy about this. They just can't say, thank God America had the balls to do what everyone else wanted to happen. But Canada came very close to saying that. They agree, they just don't like the way it happened, but they're happy that it did happen. Okay. And the same thing with England and Germany. France is the only one who's like, oh, we can't stand this, but France is a socialist country, and Spain. So France and Spain are, oh, this was terrible. How could this possibly happen? Meanwhile, Germany and England are putting out this weak statement saying that they're upset that it happened this way. They're going to have a meeting about this. This is stupid. This is the idiocy of privilege. That they're going to have a meeting. We're going to have a meeting on this. That's not going to solve anything. That doesn't fix anything. That doesn't resolve anything. Yeah, they can have all the meetings they want. Yeah, on Monday, we're going to have a UN meeting. Doesn't mean anything. It's after the fact. It doesn't matter. And people are like, but the international law means nothing. You know who enforces the international law of the UN? The United States. Think about that for a second. International law only exists as long as the United States is standing there to back it up. It's kind of like with NATO. NATO exists because the United States is there to back it up. When you hear Europe and England talking about, well, we got to send troops into the Ukraine and we're going to help stabilize it if America will back them up. If America isn't backing them up, they can't do it. It's like I was talking about Greenland earlier. They can put up a token resistance. They can symbolically say that they're trying to do something. But if America isn't standing up to do it, it doesn't matter. It doesn't exist. It's useless. It is just sophistry. It has nothing to do with reality. So they can have as many meetings as they want, but things are getting done. Whether they're having a meeting or not, the reality is stuff's happening and they're not invited. They're not involved. They don't matter, and they don't like it. This is the main root of international anger with America and Donald Trump. And it's the same international anger when the United States has any strong president. And you can say that George Bush, G.W. Bush, was a strong president, and the world was very angry with him. Why? Because he recognized America can do these things on our own, and we are the superpower of the world. Same thing with Reagan, did the same thing. They didn't like him. He's such a cowboy. But they need the cowboy to keep things under control, because the bandits, the bad guys, people like Iran, will thrive under weak presidents like Obama, like Biden. That's just the reality of the world. If you're on the left, you don't like that, can't help you, because it's still true. You don't have to like it. It's still the truth. It is still the facts of the world. And you can dislike it all you want. And if you want to be like Chase Oliver, and I'm not picking Chase badly, it was brought up earlier in the chat, and you can want world peace and you want people to be kumbaya, we're all hugs and everyone loves everyone, like Gandhi, and that's fantastic. It's just not realistic. It's a wonderful ideal to reach for, but that's not the nature of the world. That's not the nature of mankind throughout the history of mankind. I'd like to think that that's possible one day, but that's not the reality of today. And that's not the reality of history. So it's great. Go hug a tree, but get out of our way because we're doing things. Now, I think we should also bring up, and I'm going to get back to some of the comments you guys have been having because I really am flabbergasted and I appreciate everyone's comments that have been coming in. I didn't expect it. We were doing this show just off the cuff. I didn't have any warning, so I'm really appreciating so many people are speaking with me and paying attention, whether you agree or you disagree, telling me your thoughts. But I did want to mention that it is possible Donald Trump may get impeached for this. It is a very realistic possibility. And I think we should consider that and understand this is going to influence the rest of this decade. This not only this decade, but the next 2 decades. Donald Trump, in his statement this morning, said that this was war. He declared unequivocally, he declared war on Iran. A president cannot declare war. That is just an absolute fact. There is no question, there's no dispute on that. I don't question that. And so when we hear people say the president can't declare war, they are correct. And with Donald Trump saying that, that is an impeachable offense. Now, mind you, Donald Trump is a lame duck president. He can't get elected a 3rd time. He's already towards the end of his administration. After the November election, no matter how it turns out, he's going to lose most of his power. That's true of every lame duck president, every president in their 2nd term. In the second 2 years, they're lame ducks. They lose most of their political power in America. So that's where he is. So what happens if you were to try to impeach Donald Trump? That wouldn't be for another year. You have to go through all the paperwork, the entire process. Democrats might jump on board, not all of them. John Fetterman would not be one of them. You'll have others who will defect. Many Republicans will be supporting the president because this is working so far, assuming that there aren't mass deaths of Americans, either our soldiers or civilians, assuming that doesn't happen and this ends rather quickly, given that Iran is already saying they want de-escalation, they're willing to have peace talks already after just a couple of hours, it is unlikely that we'll see massive civilian casualties, we would hope, and therefore Donald Trump would maintain his hold on Congress, which means the impeachment, they go through the process, it won't result in him leaving. But even if it did, he's at the end of his, you're looking at the soonest, 2027, 3rd quarter of 2027, the fall of 2027 would be the soonest that we would be able to remove Donald Trump as president if there was some strength behind the impeachment movement. That's about a year and a quarter early, and he was already a lame duck. It doesn't affect him. He's already too old. He's at the end of his politics, his political career as a leadership role. He's at the end of his presidency. He cannot get reelected. It really doesn't have an impact. And we would see J.D. Vance take over as president. He's in the next in line in succession. So he would be the next, he would instantly become president. And very much like what we saw with Kathy Hochul after we saw Andrew Cuomo resign in disgrace because of killing 16,000 New Yorkers and 11 sexual assaults, according to the Tish James, the Attorney General of New York. That's what she claimed. So then we got Kathy Hochul, and then she continued. You'd see the same thing. You'd see we have J.D. Vance. He would be in charge. he would seek re-election. And it's highly likely that he would, at least at this point, it is highly likely that he would be reelected and we'd have a Vance presidency, which is pretty much what we're looking at anyway. So I don't know that it actually changes anything. It will make some of the leftists, the Antifa individual, the anti-ICE movement, the ones who love illegal aliens and they're trying to protect illegal aliens like Ilhan Omar and Rashida Tlaib, the people who are willing to commit billions of dollars of fraud, stealing American citizens' money, they'd be happy because, Donald Trump got impeached. And the people with TDS, Donald Trump got impeached. Donald Trump got removed. Fantastic. Did that end the war? Does that change the war? No. No. It doesn't really do anything. It doesn't change anything. It just means that he's gone. Now, some people may say, but Mike, is this Donald Trump is doing this under the War Powers Act, the Authorization of Military Forces Act, Uniform Authorization of Military Forces Act. He has the right to do what he has done. As we mentioned earlier in the show, an hour before the fighting started, Donald Trump did notify Congress, which is what he's required to do. And he has the ability, under the War Powers Act, under the Unified Authorization of Military Forces, he has the right for at least 30 days to engage in a conflict before Congress needs to step in and either declare a war or give an extension of the time that our military can be in a conflict. This is what the law says. So we have that, and so he's complied to that extent of it. I imagine that Democrats, if they're smart, and people who are against war, libertarians, people like Chase Oliver and others, those who are concerned about the power of the presidency, will seek to change either the War Powers Act and or the Uniform Authorization of Military Forces. And change those laws. I don't know how you change it to enable and allow the president to still react to extreme circumstances as is necessary for a global leader, but yet still remain under and subject to the Congress. It is a very difficult tightrope. That's why we have the War Powers Act. That's why we have the Uniform Authorization of Military Forces. Because there is some leeway a president should be given, but at the same time, we have to make sure that there's a very big wall, a very clear line that they cannot step over to just create a war, which arguably Donald Trump did. I don't know how to resolve that. That is an issue that we as Americans must investigate. And I say again, we as Americans, not the Democrats, not the Republicans, not third parties, not any political faction. No, this is not the responsibility of the elected officials. This is the responsibility of the American people. We have to be clear. What do we think is too far? And then through our understanding of what's too much, then our elected officials can do it. Because we have come to a point in America that if we just let the elected officials do it, they're going to do this by partisan politics straight down the line. And they're not going to pay attention to what actually is important and effective and necessary for our nation. And they're going to base it on, well, Donald Trump did this. We can't let Donald Trump do that. Is everything that Donald Trump did wrong? We can argue that some of it might be overreach. Some of it is authorized. Where is that line? I'm not exactly sure, but it shouldn't be about the politics. We need an answer that is very clear based on the needs of America as a superpower, not based on the needs of a political party to get re-election, to gain political power. Those are very different things with very different answers. And that's why the American public should speak up. Whether you agree with Trump or not is immaterial. We're not talking about President Trump. We're talking about the power of a president to engage in conflict and or war. That's the argument, and it has nothing to do with Trump because Trump's gone. He's got 2 years. He's done. We're talking about whoever gets elected in 2028, probably JD Vance, possibly Marco Rubio. We're talking about who's going to be elected in 2032, definitely Rubio. We're talking about who will be elected in 2036 and on and on. We're talking about the future of America, not Donald Trump. And if you're thinking of Donald Trump in this context, if you're thinking of Donald Trump on how do we prevent Donald Trump from doing X, Y, Z, you are missing the point, and you're actually causing more harm than good, because it's not about Donald Trump. It's about our country. It is about our Constitution and the powers between Congress and the executive branch. That's what's important, not Donald Trump. He's just an easy punching bag. He's an easy target because he's president. And every president is an easy target. That's Biden, that's Obama, that's Bush, GW, Bush Sr., Reagan, Clinton. You can go back down the line. Every president is an easy punching bag. Why? They were president. But this isn't about who's the president today. It's not about your political affiliation or your political feelings. We're talking about the power of the executive branch. That is separate. If you cannot separate the two, don't get involved in the conversation. That's my opinion on that. A lot of people may agree or may not agree. Let me see. I'm going to go back to some of the comments here, and I see from Hal, 2 times in history, Bill Clinton has been forced to testify. Both times, the U.S. bombed someone shortly thereafter. That is interesting. I don't think, I do appreciate what you're saying, Hal, and thank you for commenting. I don't believe that Bill Clinton or Hillary Clinton, they have never been so powerful that the United States would risk global international war just to take care of Bill Clinton. He's not that important. I don't think he owns that many secrets. I think it's an interesting coincidence, but I don't believe that he is that important to anything. He is not that strong politically. I don't think he's that connected, and I don't think it's worth it. It is an imbalance. It is worth noting. It is unique and interesting, but I don't think Bill Clinton's just worth it. Hal goes on to say, it's just some dry humor. Don't overthink it. I'm in an overthinking mode right now, but you are right. Yes. And I appreciate that, Hal. Thank you. Thank you for that. I shouldn't always overthink everything that's going on. Okay, let me go back to some of the comments before the break. My God, you guys had so many things you were talking about. And by the way, I do want to mention, thank you, Grismatically Clever, for the super chat, $3. It really does matter, and I thank you for that. It is important. It helps this channel so much. And please like, share, subscribe. If you're finding it interesting to have a conversation with someone about the big issues and to just understand a different way of seeing this than what CNN is telling you how you should feel. New York Times is telling you how you should feel. NBC, MS Now, or whatever the hell they call themselves, they're all trying to tell you how you should feel. Even Fox News, and to an extent, Newsbusters and many of the others are trying to tell you this is what you should feel. This is what you should think. I'm not. I'm just trying to have a conversation with you. I'm telling you what I think, yes. And you can say, but Mike, you're a conservative Republican. I am. And you're biased. True, I am. I'm not denying any of that. But I'm also not telling you that what I think and what I understand is the only answer that could exist. I'm trying to have this conversation with you so that you can understand for yourself better, so that we can then all go and elect the right person to go out and do what we tell them to do. That's how our country was designed. We have the conversations. We elect someone to then go out and say, this is what my constituents are saying. This is what the majority of my people I'm elected to represent. This is what they are thinking at this moment on any of these issues. This is what they want to see done. And doing that will get us a better result as a nation. That's what I'm trying to do. I'm not trying to convert you into a Republican. I'm not trying to make you be a clone of me, although that's a wonderful thing. I'm not asking you to do that. I am only trying to make sure our country is great. So if you made it this far into the show, or even the first half, please like, share, subscribe, leave a comment. Tell me if you're seeing it live. I'd love you in the chat. If you're not, fantastic. Leave a comment afterwards. I appreciate it. But definitely, if you can, I need the money. I'm poor. I'm not Rachel Meadows. No one's paying me $25 million a year to do this show. No one's paying me $5,000. No one's paying me, I got $3. There's my payment. Okay. It's not exactly cost effective, but I appreciate it. I do absolutely appreciate it. Okay. With that said, let me go back in to some of the comments that we were having. God, I lost my spot. Where was I? So, where did we leave off? I think we left off with Chuck talking about Israel and Saudi Arabia, and I addressed that, I believe. Keep It Real was mentioning to us at the time. I disagree about Trump's concern about the midterms because his push for safeguarding the elections has been a focal point. Now part of it is tied to the Georgia case, but in my opinion, he wants the GOP to win. Yes, I think Trump would like the GOP to win if possible. I think he believes that the GOP will be able to continue what he's trying to start and what he has planned to make sure that America will be in a strong position in 10 years, in 20 years. Democrats obviously want to go in the exact opposite direction. We know that at this moment, the progressive democratic socialist movement in America has grown within the last 5 years, has grown from 7% of Democrats to 21% of Democrats, and they have the biggest voices. And we saw that during the State of the Union with Ilhan Omar and Rashida Tlaib, as they were defending absolute known fraud. They were defending the fraud. They were defending illegal aliens. And we've seen all the Democrats defend illegal aliens. So, yes, if you have a choice of people who would open up the borders, just like Joe Biden, and overwhelm our cities and introduce, yes, some good people, but also gangs and drug dealers and sex slavers, people who would abuse us, and people who abuse our Medicare system and our charity. If you have a choice of supporting one or the other, which one's going to be better for America? Well, I go with the Republicans. Personally, I go with Republicans. I think Trump goes with the Republicans. So, of course, he wants them to win if at all possible, but I don't think that's his primary focus. Let me go on. Dow says, we should be exporting a working model of liberty first, principled government. To do that, though, you have to have a homogenized culture. Currently, we are bifurcated. We are more than bifurcated. We are shattered. We are, I'm trying to think of the word. We are completely divided, fractured at this point. We have so many areas that in America that are people in America and not Americans. So we have a lot of people, as an example, and since we're talking about Minnesota a lot, we have a lot of people in Minnesota. They are Somalis in America, not Somali Americans. And in fact, no one should be any hyphen. There should be no hyphen. I'm an American. I'm not a Black American. I'm not a Hispanic American. I'm not a Puerto Rican American. I'm an American, period. Full stop, done. That's the descriptor. I'm an American. I've lived overseas. And people didn't go, well, Mike, you're a Black American when I lived in Moscow. No. They didn't go, oh, you're a Puerto Rican American. No. They said I'm an American. And they treated me like they treated any other American because I'm an American, period. Full stop. There is these other hyphens, these other things. I'm an Irish American, Italian American, Somali American, Japanese American. That's useless. That is non-committal. We are Americans, period. And there is a massive difference between being in America and being American, assimilating, being part of the American ideal. And when people are in America, as opposed to being Americans, then we get the kinds of fraud that we're seeing in Minnesota. And by the way, it's not isolated to Minnesota. We're seeing it in California. We're seeing it in Maine. We're seeing it in New York State. We're seeing it in Ohio. This is something that has been happening, and it has been allowed to fester, just like in Minnesota. What we are addressing today is something that started back in 2018. This is not a short-term, just noticed, just happened thing. This has been happening for about a decade in each and every one of these states. We have to address this and homogenize our country. I agree with you, Dal. I do agree with that. Keep It Real says, if the Ayatollah was taken out, there will be at least one Democrat who cries about that on TV. Trump derangement syndrome is very real. What I would imagine it would probably be Ilhan Omar more than anyone else, because she is Muslim. And although the Ayatollah has a very different view of Islam than apparently what Ilhan Omar has, in fact, if Ilhan Omar was Iranian, she would be stoned to death for what she has done so far in her history. She would never be allowed to have as much wealth or power. She would never be allowed to be part of the government if she was Iranian under the Ayatollah. But because he's Muslim and because she, what's the word I'm looking for? She sucks up to her base, then she would cry on TV. I truly believe that. And that's kind of sad because it's not even genuine. It's just her doing whatever it takes to maintain power. Dow goes on to say, my bet is on Omar and Tlaib being the ones holding a vigil for the Ayatollah. I imagine they both would. I am absolutely sure it would be Omar. I don't know about Tlaib, but probably, even though the Ayatollah, if they were in Iran, would make sure that they got stoned to death. They would never be able to have the power or the position or the anything. They would get nothing if they actually had the Ayatollah. They'll cry for him, and they'll probably come out with a statement already today saying that Donald Trump is horrible. And I think Ilhan Omar already came out today and said that, oh my God, Donald Trump only bombs Muslim countries. Well, only Iran for 47 years has said death to America. Only Iran is the major supporter of terrorism around the world. Only Iran is trying to kill people that don't think like the Ayatollah does. So yeah, that's maybe that's the reason why Iran has been a target of the United States for the last 47 years. Not because they're Muslim, but because of what they do. We know Americans aren't upset that they believe in a God that is different than some Americans, that they believe in God in a certain way. I have nothing against Islam. That's your religious belief. Fantastic. It's all yours. But if you're saying I want to kill everyone who doesn't have that exact same belief, that's where the problem comes from. And that's the problem. And Ilhan Omar wants to sidestep that so that she can get sympathy and empathy, money and power, because she doesn't want to deal with the reality. The problem isn't Islam. The problem is the governments and the terrorism that has used Islam as a transfer mechanism. At least that's the way I see it. People may disagree with me. I'm happy to hear your voices. Let me see. We have a comment. They seem to take turns. Oh, this is to Dal. Okay. Let me see. Oh, I got a comment here. Chuck says some people that he knows that are in Sharjah. Is it pronounced that way? Sharjah? About 2 hours away from Abu Dhabi, replied at 12:47 Eastern Standard Time that Abu Dhabi was hit in this afternoon. That would be from the Iranians, not from America, not from Israel. That is Iran. So Iran struck Abu Dhabi at 12:45 this afternoon. They say that things are fine there. The missiles were intercepted by the UAE, the United Arab Emirates Air Defense. That's American. The United Arab Emirates Air Defense comes from America. And there was no panic. So the United States saved people in Abu Dhabi because Iran, another Arabic Middle Eastern state, decided to try and attack their enemies in another Arabic state. So America saved lives. That's interesting. Let's see. Gracie was here with us a little while ago over on Rumble. Thank you for being there with us. And Gracie said he did tell us there would be a little bit. Okay, Donald Trump did tell us there would be a little bit of pain, meaning this may hurt a little now, but things will be much better in the future. Well, yes, it is a war. And that's why when he said, some Americans may die, he's talking about the military. But he's also talking about the potential of terrorists in the United States. Some of these terrorist cells may activate, and then some American citizens may be harmed because of that. But that's the whole purpose of these terrorist cells, to harm American citizens. That's why we need closed borders and why we need mass deportations. That's why we need an immigration system that works to prevent terrorists from coming into America and creating cells so that they can harm innocent civilians in their homes or going out shopping. So this was bound to happen. These terrorist cells aren't here just to hang out. They're here to kill American citizens. And the question is, when do they do that? And we would hope that we would have, whether it's, it doesn't matter, it could be the FBI, it could be ICE, it could be Border Patrol. We would hope that law enforcement would identify these cells and remove them before they have the opportunity to kill American citizens. That's what I would hope. Gracie goes on to say, I wish he did care about the midterms because I don't want his term to basically end at the midterms. He'll be a lame duck after them and possibly impeached. Well, okay, Gracie, you were ahead of me on this, but yes, and I do think that regardless of whether, and we will see this within the next week, as soon as things calm down somewhat with Iran, let's assume that within this week, we will see that the United States will pause within the next 2 to 3 days. They're going to pause. They're going to hear Iran, and we'll find out who's still alive in the leadership of Iran. If the Iranian people don't immediately overthrow that government, we're going to hear whoever's left, whether it be the Ayatollah or anyone else, will reach out and say they want America to de-escalate. In that time that we're going to have that pause and that request for de-escalation, as the Iranian people decide, do they want to keep the remnants of the Ayatollah's regime in place or to remove it? While that's happening, you're going to hear Democrats are going to come out and they are going to try and impeach Donald Trump. They're going to start that process now so that they can advertise that over the summer and going into the November elections. They think this will be a positive for them. They think that this will be something that will get more votes. It may, in fact, get more of the Antifa Democratic Socialists to vote, but I don't think that's the majority of America. And as long as American citizen suffering is at a minimum, I don't think this is going to be held against Donald Trump and the Republican Party. I think Democrats want it to be. I don't think that's going to happen, but we will see. I'm not sure. Let's see. Keep It Real says that a hotel in Dubai was damaged from a downed missile. Again, Dubai is being protected by American anti-missile networks, so that's probably why it's not more devastating. It's better that a missile has been deactivated and falls, its pieces fall, rather than it explode like it was meant to do. So, there's good and bad to this. Let me see. Dow is going on to say, the other difference between Iran and Iraq is the culture. Iran is hard to tell because death was the result for not openly declaring and publicly facing as a Muslim in support of the Ayatollah. Yeah, relatively, Iraq is more moderate, is one way of saying it, than what we see in Iran. Iran, yes, absolutely. Iran will stone a woman because she was sexually assaulted, and they will stone her to death. They will. Women were not wearing their hijabs. They were showing their hair, and they killed a woman for showing her hair. They are incredibly repressive. We know this. They killed many men for standing up for the women who showed their hair. Again, this isn't saying they were running around in a bikini. They just had their hair out, visible, instead of being completely covered. And Iran, the government, killed them for that. And the men who said, no, it's not the same thing as running around in a bikini, some of them were killed as well. So yes, you're correct. Iran is far more repressive and far more authoritarian and far more oppressive than Iraq or Afghanistan, even the Taliban, far more repressive than that. And yet we see people in Colombia, and you're going to hear people like Ilhan Omar and Rashid and many others are going to come to their rescue and go, no, but Iran, you just don't understand. Iran isn't the bad guy. And when I say that, again, I'm talking about the government. It's not the people. They're going to say, no, the Ayatollah is not that bad. It's Trump that's so bad. Trump is the bad guy. That's what they're going to say. Some people will believe it. I don't know how. I don't know how they do that. Let's see. Dow goes on to say, the reality is Iran is more secular. They are. Kind of like a better version of Turkey pre-1979. I don't know about that. What is this? We have Keep It Real says Trump doesn't want Starmer or Macron. He doesn't trust them. We shouldn't. Emmanuel Macron, as I have covered on the Sunday live stream, which I've been doing for 9 years, I've covered this already. That back in, and you can check this for yourself, March 2023, Emmanuel Macron was speaking before the EU, and he was advising the members of Europe to abandon the United States. This is under the Biden administration. Emmanuel Macron was saying that Europe had to abandon America, that includes Joe Biden and the Democrats, to completely throw them away and to take on China. That they had to become buddies with China and to prepare for a socialist world leader instead of supporting the United States. Again, this is France saying this about America. America has been a strong ally of France historically from the beginning of our nation, and we have supported them strongly throughout many of their military endeavors and saved France twice in world wars and bailed them out of Vietnam. And yet Macron is saying he'll throw all of that under a bus, and he wants to support China, the Communist Chinese Party that kills the Uyghurs, that is hyper segregationist, that is hyper judgmental, and he wants to support that. Would you trust him? I wouldn't. Let me see. Let me go on. Dow says that American success in the region, Middle East, is going to require vigilance to ensure that American-based non-governmental offices or organizations, destabilizers, don't muck up the culture and create another Afghanistan scenario. The easiest way to prevent Iran from becoming another Afghanistan, becoming another 20-year war, is very simple. One of two things has to happen. Either the United States takes over Iran, period, full stop. We own it. It's a commonwealth. We rebuild the infrastructure. We allow women to be able to work, to be able to read, to get a job. We make that transformation, and we allow in 2 generations, Iran is able to either become its own country again, or it can be a commonwealth or a state. Its choice, but that's 2 generations, 40 years from today. Or we put in and help to install a more democratic government, and we have to support that government. I'm not talking about a puppet government. That doesn't work. That's what we had in Afghanistan. It failed. We tried that in Iraq. It failed. We can't put in puppet governments. They always fail, whether it's in South America, Central America, or the Middle East, or anywhere else in the world. They always fail because they don't have the trust and faith and confidence of the people of that nation, nor do they have the best interest of that nation in their mind. So we can help support democracy and allow and show people how to vote and be democratic. And that's a transitional government. And we're kind of doing that in Venezuela right now, where we're helping the people to relearn what it is to have personal freedom. People had that freedom prior to Hugo Chavez. In Iran, prior to 1979, the people had an understanding of individual freedom. They had that. It was then taken away from them, either by communism in the case of Venezuela or because of the Ayatollah in the case of Iran. We need to reintroduce that individual freedom under the structure and supervision of the United States, and then let those people, as they relearn what it is to be an individual, to be self-sufficient, to be self-reliant, to be self-responsible. Once they learn that, then they can vote and make a informed choice about who they want to lead them and how they want them to be led. But at the moment, you can't just it's not turning a switch. We can't just go, hey, you've been living under a dictatorship, in the case of Venezuela, for the last 20 years. Now you're free. Go make your choices now. Now that you're free, you can just live like everyone else in Vermont. They wouldn't know how to do it. It's not something that they know how to live. They don't know how to be self-sufficient or self-responsible. Same thing in Iran. If we don't help them through this process, and this process of regime change, which is obviously what this is all about, if we don't help them through this process of regime change, and they will fall back into another terrorist state. Iran will become, whether it's the Ayatollah or ISIS, whether it's the Taliban or Al-Qaeda, they will be a repressive regime again in a year if we do not help guide them to understand what it is to be self-reliant, to be self-responsible, to understand what it is to be independent again. That is a transition. They need that because they have gone through 47 years. There's 2 generations, if not 3, that have suffered and know nothing but repression. They don't know how to be free. They don't know what freedom even looks like. I think people forget that on a regular basis, and they think, well, everyone's just like in America or one of the other first world nations. It's like being in Canada or being over in Germany. No, it's not. It's nothing like that. They've never lived that kind of life. They've never had that kind of freedom. Forget about America, which is the most free nation in the world. They've never had the freedom of, Egypt. They don't know what it is to be as free as Egyptians. They just don't have that. They don't know how free it is to live like a Moroccan. They don't have that opportunity, or Saudi Arabia or the United Arab Emirates. They don't know what that is. We have to show them that. And that can be done with our allies in the Middle East, the United Arab Emirates. It could be Kuwait, it could be Qatar, it could be Saudi Arabia, or a combination of all of them to help bring these people to understand what it is to be free, self-reliant. That's something that we need to work towards, I think. People may disagree with me, but I think that's the solution to this at the end of the day. Let's see. We got a comment from Dow who says, we'll need to own it. We'll need to own Iran, but everyone operating closely with Iranian people to rebuild are going to need to be vetted very closely. Well, again, that's why I say we need to work with, again, we don't need coalitions to do things, but to build something, we do. When we're talking about culture, when we're talking about religion, we do need support because this is alien to the United States. Every American knows what it is to be independent and free, or at least what we believe is independent and free, more than any other country in the world. And we often, it is the hubris of being American that we can look at the rest of the world and go, we do it, why don't you? We think it's really simple because we've never known anything else. And whether or not we're absolutely free or just partially free doesn't really matter. It's that we have the impression we are more free than everyone else, and we expect everyone to be to understand freedom like we do. It's not the truth. That's not the reality of the situation. And therefore, because the rest of the world doesn't know what it is to be as free as an American, we need help to introduce that to people, to take the step-by-step process to take them from being essentially slaves, because that's what they are in Iran, much like what they were in Venezuela. People were slaves. And we have to take them from that slavery and bring them step by step to a better place than where they have been for the last 47 years. It's difficult. It's not easy, but it can happen. And I think that's the way we should look at it. Let me see. Let me check on some of the other comments here. Oh, God. We're going to be ending somewhat soon. Give me a second here. Oh, wait a minute. Take that off. He'll figure it out. What will I figure? Oh, that was, yeah. Okay, $3. This. No, not Oscar. My dog is named Khan. By the way, Grizzly Matic, for those who are new to the program, my dog, his name is Khan, as in Genghis Khan. I guess this is why people sometimes say that I'm a hawkish person, because I believe, my dog's name is Khan, Genghis Khan. Who would name his dog Genghis Khan? I would. By the way, Genghis Khan is a half Bichon, half Scotty. He weighs about 23 pounds at the moment. He's a little fat. And he's 15 years old. But yes, his name is Genghis Khan. I love him. So yeah, but it's not Oscar. Okay. Yeah, I am using Restream. I do use Restream, and usually it's fine. Lately, it's been screwing up. Let me see here. Grizzly Matic, if you think you have a different look, Hal, one of the people in chat, someone who supported the channel for many years, Hal. You'll see him as Hal from New York. He created the opening intro, and I love it. He's given me the right to use it for my program. It was a gift from him. I appreciate it. If anyone wants to make an outro music video, a video or musical interlude for short breaks or something, hey, you guys can do it. I'm happy to have the assets. I'm not brilliant enough to make music. I am not. That's just not one of the skills that I have. If you think you can do something that's even better, fantastic. Send it to me. I'll probably use it. Pretty sure I will. It's not like I'm going to make something better. I'm just not that good. But I appreciate the offer. Please go right ahead. Okay. Let's see. I'm just trying to catch up on all the comments that are here. Grizzly Matic mentions that he thought that China and Russia had the back of Iran. No. A lot of people forget this. I've covered this over the years. Iran and China and Russia hate each other. They absolutely have very little in common. They hate each other culturally, philosophically, in terms of business, in terms of their government structures. They hate each other substantially. The only thing that allows China, Iran, and Russia to work together is they hate America. And more importantly, it really came together under the Biden-Harris administration. People go, Mike, but you just don't like Democrats. No, that's just not it. It's historical. We've seen this, that they had loose connections, but their biggest thing is that they don't like America. And under the Biden administration, the sanctions that Biden was putting on Russia allowed the loophole of Russia being able to work with Iran and China. And by trading oil and gas and some natural resources for drones and missiles and money, they were all that triumvirate. Those three nations were able to work together as a faction. They didn't have to like each other. They disagree with each other on a regular basis to some extent. We've seen that in the UN on various issues. They will disagree with each other, but they won't hold each other back because their goal is get rid of America first. That's their first issue. Get rid of America. Then they will work it out amongst themselves, which one is number 2 or 3 or whatever. But their first goal is take down America, destroy America. That's their adversary, and everything else is secondary to that. That's why they work together. But if, as an example, if the Ukraine war ends, and if in ending the Ukraine war, Russia is able to make some negotiations. They've already offered $14 trillion to the United States to lift some sanctions to allow Russia to do business more directly with America. If we were to ever do that, that would break the connection between Russia, China, and Iran. That would break their bond. And therefore, all three of those nations would be somewhat weaker in their attack against America. It's kind of in our best interest to work with these countries economically to some extent, because it weakens their ties to each other and it lessens the ability of like what we see right now. Iran has, sorry about that, knocked over my microphone. It would lessen the ability of Iran, as an example, to build drones that are being used by Russia to attack the Ukraine. And Russia is using gas and some natural resources being given, and rare earth metals are being given over to Iran. Iran is selling oil, some of the Russian oil that Russia cannot sell because of the embargoes. Some of that is being sold in Iran. Some of it is being sold directly to China. This way, they get around all the different sanctions, and China gets the oil that it needs. It gets some of the resources that it needs. Iran gets to make and develop some of the goods that they can then sell. Everybody gets to make money, and they all get to combat the U.S. and U.S. interests around the world. So, no, they really don't like each other. Let me see. So I hope that answers your question. If I haven't, please let me know. Let me see here. Are there memberships? This is a good question. Hang on one second. Do I have memberships? I've never actually answered this. I don't have memberships at this time. I can, but I've never been asked to create YouTube memberships. The other thing is, I don't trust YouTube. I don't like YouTube. YouTube censors the hell out of my channel. I have been on YouTube for over 15 years. I'm one of the first YouTube political commentators. I was one of the first ones doing this 15 years ago. I wasn't great. the first couple of years, I was nowhere near great. I tell you that. But I was doing this for 15 years. And I have been censored over the last, 10, 15 years, where I've really gotten good at this and I finally figured out what I'm doing and how to do it. They've been censoring us hard because we're not politically correct. I don't have a leftist ideology. I'm a black man who is a Republican, run for Republican office. I have very many conservative views. I do not hold back in calling out the left for the things that they do wrong. And at the same time, I will call out the right when they screw up too. And I do this factually, showing sources whenever possible. If you've seen my Sunday live stream, you see that after the show, I show you during the live stream, all of the sources, almost all of them are 95% of them are left leaning. And then after the show, I should provide the links so you can go back and see everything I was talking about for yourself. They don't like that. They like independent. They like people to agree with the party ideology, Democrat, Republican, Antifa, those kind of things. They don't want you to think for yourself. So they have been suppressing this channel, and now they want, and then they give me the opportunity, finally, they've given me now the opportunity to have memberships. Why? Because it makes more money for YouTube. I don't like making money for YouTube. They take 30, 40% of this. It's my content, my time, my energy, my research, my credibility on the line every time I come on to do a live stream. And they want to take money. Okay, I can't say they can't. I'm not saying they shouldn't because it is their platform, but they want 30% and they suppress me at the same time. I don't agree with that. That's why, yes, super chats work fantastic and I appreciate that. But then again, I have Patreon. It's only $1.50 a month. I recommend people join my Patreon. I'm not trying to get rich. I'm just trying to pay bills. Join my Patreon. It's $1.50 a month. That's it. I only have one tier. You want to donate more? Go to my PayPal. Donate there. Don't give the money to, yes, give some money to YouTube because I want the super chats. But if you want to do more than $5, go to my PayPal. Donate directly to me. Cut YouTube out. That's why I don't have memberships. I don't think that someone should pay $7 a month, which means that YouTube is going to get something like $2.50 a month to suppress my channel to make it harder for me to be heard. My peers, intellectually, in terms of capability, in terms of knowledge, in terms of information, I have peers like Hard Lens Media, Larry Sharp, Glenn Greenwald. I'm there with all of them. I should have an audience somewhere in the 30 to 50, maybe 100,000 people. I don't. And I blame YouTube for a lot of that. I don't think it's the quality of the show or myself. I don't even think it's my political ideology. I think it's YouTube. They censor this program and the things we say. That's why I don't have a membership. So I'm also a little gregarious. That's true too. But if people think that, hey, I should have YouTube memberships, if enough people say yes, I'll do it. I just tend to not. Okay, let's see. No disrespect. No. I don't think there's any disrespect. I don't think Hal would take disrespect, and I wouldn't take disrespect. But I would say, it's competition is good. Competition is good. If you got the best song in the universe, let me hear it. Why wouldn't I want to use it? Doesn't mean I would never use Hal's song either, but doesn't mean that I wouldn't listen to anyone else. Competition's good. Okay. That being said, okay, so, oh my God, it only took 3 hours to catch up to all of the comments. Wow. For a last minute, spur of the moment live stream, I didn't expect 3 hours of comments. That's surprising to me. Okay, but that's good. And by the way, tomorrow, I'm still going to have my Sunday live stream at 2:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I'll be talking a little bit more about Cuba. I'll be talking a little bit more about the State of the Union and the impact of that, and some other issues that have been clouded by the things that these massive events sometimes hide the little things, because we're still having things happen. I mean, right now, we're still trying to deal with Cuba and the fact that they killed 4 Americans with 6 others being injured. They have captured 6 Americans alive and possibly, very likely, are torturing them in Cuba as we speak. But obviously, what's going on with Iran is a massive deal, and that's important too. And what happened with the State of the Union is important too. But not everyone's talking about it. And most of the mainstream news media, I've noticed, at least I was noticing up until today, really haven't been talking about Cuba. International news is talking about it. Overseas, they're talking about it. But in America, they don't want to mention it too much because Cuba is a socialist nation. They are a dictatorship. And it makes the democratic socialists look bad when we talk about Cuba and its repression and the fact that it's killing American citizens. And I think given what happened in Iran today and the fact that Iran is already looking to back down, that Iran is already looking to try and find a way to save their government, save themselves, the leadership are trying to save themselves and save their power base. As we're seeing this happen, I think Cuba is watching that happen, seeing what happened to Venezuela, seeing what's happening to Iran. And I think Cuba is looking at that right this second, seeing what happened to the cartels in Mexico. And they're saying to themselves, we just killed 4 Americans. There are 6 Americans that are wounded and probably being tortured right now. We got to end this. They got to fix this quick. I do not believe the Cuban story the way they have described it. Elements of it may be true, but we already know that at least one of the individuals that Cuba has said that they had either killed and or injured is actually in America right now. They were never on the boat. Cuba's just making it up. They pulled the name out the air, and the guy that they're blaming, he's in Miami right now. But they said, oh no, but he's on the boat. We shot him. No, you didn't. He's in Miami. And that's according to the Miami Herald yesterday that we found out that news. So if that's a major essential part of the story of what's going on with Cuba, and if their key element, the people they say they shot, are actually living in America right now and they're perfectly fine, something is fundamentally wrong with what happened. And we should know about that. We should pay attention to that. Mainstream media doesn't want to talk about it. I will. And I will talk with you guys about it. And if you think I'm wrong, trust, Hal will point it out. Hal will tell you that, Mike, you got it wrong. Some of the dozen other people will say, Mike, you just don't know. Here's the information you missed. John R. will make sure, Mike, here's the latest news announcement. You missed it. So, and I appreciate that because I love my audience, because you're intelligent individuals, you're human beings, and you deserve the right to be heard. By the way, let's also keep in mind, this isn't over by a long shot. Next week, why is it doing this? I got to fix this tomorrow. But anyway, we know that right now, there is a planned protest in New York City to support Iran. I don't get it. They're going to be fighting. There is a support, and this is from WPIX. That's the local news channel in New York City. I know it's been here for all my life. I've been in New York for some 50 odd years, me and my family. And WPIX is the local channel 11. So if local news, channel 11, is telling us that there is going to be a protest, then every news agency in America is aware of it. ABC, CBS, NBC, the New York Times, Washington Post, They all have major outlets and offices in New York City. They're workers. They have thousands. I'm only one man. All of those news agencies, each and every one of them, have thousands of employees, of which thousands, hundreds and thousands of them live in New York City in every one of the 5 boroughs. They know that there's going to be a protest. Local news is telling us about it. I haven't seen that from national. Now, I've been on with you guys for 3 hours. Maybe I missed it. But as far as I know, they're not. I have to ask the question, who's protesting? Who is going to stand up and say, I support Iran, the repressive regime that actually poisons schoolgirls? By the way, people may have forgot that. This is 3 years ago. 3 years ago, Iran was poisoning its schoolgirls because they were learning to read. Who is going to support that? Who's going to defend that? Who are these people who are going to go? And they're like, oh, but it's all about Israel. No, it's not. That's the excuse. That's the distraction. Look, you don't have to love Israel. I'm not telling you have to love Israel or you have to think they're the best guys ever. That's your choice. That's up to you. But what I will tell you is they're not the root of the problem here. They are not Israel's existence didn't make the Ayatollah decide to support terrorism around the world. Israel's existence isn't the reason why the Ayatollah, the Iran, has been involved in terrorism in every country on the face of the earth over the last 47 years. That's not because of Israel. You don't have to like Israel. Iran is a problem all its own, whether you like Israel or not. So to say, oh, well, we got to protest Israel, they're not the problem. They're not the issue at hand. And they aren't the reason why America is attacking Iran. We have 47 years. We have thousands of dead Americans that are directly a result of Iran and Iran-based terrorism. We don't need someone else to tell us that we have to go after Iran. Now, again, is there a difference between the Iranian people and the Iranian government? Yes, massive. The Iranian people are great, but the Iranian government, not so much, no. And I know some people sometimes have trouble with that. I lived in Moscow back in 1991. I was in Moscow. I lived in Soviet Georgia, Tbilisi, and also in Riga and in Moscow proper. And I got to know Russians every day. I was there for a year and a half. So I wasn't on some kind of vacation. I wasn't on a government-sponsored trip. I was just there doing business, international trade, import, export. That's what I was there for a year and a half without stop, without any vacations, which is not very healthy at the time. It was not something seen as a good thing for good reasons. It was very depressing. But I got to know the people. The government was horrible. It was repressive. It was backwards. The level of commerce and technology was decades behind the United States at that point in 1991. Their military was top of the notch. I mean, it was massive and it was very impressive. But the quality of life for the average person were horrendous. I had my driver for the company. I had a driver. And my car, the car he would drive, would routinely burst into flames. I don't know how many times we were in the car down by the first ring of Moscow, and we're driving back over to Kutuzovsky Prospect. And we're going back, and he has to pull the car over, and I had to walk home the last mile or so because the car he had to stop, pull over. He'd open up the glove box and flames would be coming out. And he's like, oh, I gotta, stop the fire. Go ahead and walk home. I'll pick you up tomorrow morning. That's how it worked. So again, there's a difference between the people and the government. There really is. So I think we've covered a lot there. So I'm interested in this protest. I can't imagine how this is going to go about. I think this is ridiculous. This is a distraction. This is a way for people who hate Israel are just looking for any excuse to hate Israel. It's kind of like people with TDS. They hate Trump, so they just look for any excuse that'll let them hate Trump. Doesn't matter if it's real. Doesn't matter if it's impactful. It's just that's how they are. So that's something that's coming up. I don't know. Yeah. Let me just show you this. And again, I want to just mention. I'll mention this about the Ayatollah, and then I'm gonna let you guys go. I'll catch up to the news that's going on. I appreciate each and every one of you. Iran's foreign minister has said that as far as he knows, the job of the foreign minister he's directly part of the hierarchy of Iran. If he has to say, I don't know, it means that the structure of the government has been completely broken. It means that the Ayatollah is probably dead. There's no one talking to the foreign minister. There's no communications in Iran at this time. So this guy is winging it for the most part. He's winging what's going on. He's trying to keep it all together because he's the only one. Because you don't say, I don't know, as far as I know. You say he is or he isn't. You don't say, I don't know. Because that creates panic. That creates riots in the streets. That creates coup attempts. So it is my belief that Ayatollah is wounded, possibly going to die. And the leadership, whoever remains, and I don't think many of them do, are trying to figure out who's going to be in charge. So how do they tell this to the Iranian people while showing enough strength to continue to control the country, but yet being able to be flexible enough to try and do something to save their own lives and end this war? That's what I believe. I could be wrong. We will see. Okay. So with all of that said, and I don't know why my screen is all screwed up like this. I don't know what's going on. I got to fix that later. With all of that said, I'm going to let you guys go because I wasn't expecting to be on very long, but I am so impressed and happy that I got to speak with all you guys and get so many questions and so many comments. If I didn't answer you, please leave a comment after this live stream. I do read all the comments, the ones that I like and the ones I don't like. I read them all. And I want to hear what you have to say. Please let me know in the comments if it's not live. Tell me what you think, whether you agree, you disagree, whatever. Don't tell me that I'm ugly. Don't tell me that I'm old. Okay, yeah, I know that. I don't care about that stuff. Don't make personal attacks. Tell me what you think about this issue and how it's going to affect America. Let's have that conversation. If I don't see you there, then tomorrow, 2:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, I will be on my Sunday live stream. I will be happy to talk to you guys then. We're going to be talking about we'll do obviously updates on this and Cuba and a lot of other stuff. Let me see here. Grismatically Clever. I'm getting tired. Grismatically Clever says, good one, sir. This has been very informative and looking forward to the next live. Thank you. That's the best compliment I can get. That's exactly what I wanted to be. Informative and entertaining to some extent. Thank you for that. I appreciate you. I'm glad that you've found our channel. Do share it with other people. Let everybody come in. I don't mind being questioned by anyone. Okay. So with that said, I will go. I got to get something to eat. And I will talk to you guys again very, very soon. Tomorrow. By the way, Monday, I do have a show with the Radically Conservative that'll be coming out. It'll be really interesting. And there's another thing that I have going on. Well, I'll tell you about that tomorrow. All right, everyone, have a good time. I'll talk to you soon.